put in the wrong I put in the wrong intro. That's how we start tonight. But
My God.
of course I got to do that. Welcome back everybody to the Boys in the Big Apple podcast. We got Justin Penik alongside us for tonight. See, the funny thing is that when I had a combined intro, not just that one for tonight, but one the last time Justin was on here and we started arguing, and Luca claimed that Josh McCown was a Pro Bowler, and that started that really weird conversation, but it was a fun one. At the same
I do
time,
remember that conversation.
yes, you were the only one campaigning for it. With that being said, Donald Stewart is also here at Pinstripe Chronicles. So,
hello, guys. Hey, Justin. Really good to talk to you, man. How are you doing?
Good. Can we get that picture of Joe Shane back up for a hot sec?
sure. Where we got right here.
Wow,
My man.
love it.
Very, very invested in the draft process, especially at the time.
But what was the origin of that picture, or on this show? Not even like the Giants, but like how did that come up on the show?
I have this habit of just like screenshotting different people's faces. Like, for example, there's this.
You do that to me too.
Yep, I did. For some reason, it's on my log tonight. There's also this one.
Love that.
And then there's also this one for the last one.
Nice.
It's a sexy picture. Man.
Yes, definitely, indeed. There's a lot of topics to talk about tonight. Obviously, we'll get to the Giants. We'll get to the Josh Donaldson stuff. Figures where I'm wearing my Cole shirt, and he's getting beaten the shit out of me. So, it must be me. It must be me. But Luca, Justin, Donald, start out. First thoughts and everything else.
It was a pretty interesting weekend. Pretty much a dead time in football right now. Nothing much to talk about. We might dive into my team. I'm not sure if Alex will allow me to. But anyways, Yankees had an interesting series this weekend surrounding the Donaldson circumstances. Eventually, they lost the series. You can't win them all. So we'll dive into that. And NBA playoffs have been fired. Golden State is one win away from returning to the finals. And Heat have a 2-1 lead on the Celtics. And we also got prospect of the week returning. I could have done 2 today, but unfortunately, connection issues. Files had to have a power outage today, so I would have done 2, but I got 1 this week. So
maybe you could have done it in advance, slacker.
Okay. It's a process. It's a process.
Yeah, Justin.
Hey everyone. Yeah. I feel bad. I've been slacking on you guys for the last couple weeks. I really wanted to come on. So yeah, it's kind of a deader time for football right now, but I'm happy to hop on, happy to talk whatever we're going to talk. Especially I have the janky game to my right on my MacBook. So Glaber Torres almost just hit a home run, and that's I made a gasping face, but it was foul. So I'm happy to be here. Always happy to talk with you guys, and let's do whatever we're going to do tonight.
Donald.
Well, it's a pleasure being on as always. As I say, it's really cool to talk to you, Justin. Because I'm a big fan of talking Giants, of course. As you can see, repping the Giants. Josh Donaldson made a bit of a name for himself this weekend, so I'm sure we'll get into that. My primary concern is whether this is going to be a distraction for the Yankees moving forward, because I really don't like the optics of someone becoming a distraction to what is so far been a really smooth ride for this Yankee team. They're really kicking ass and taking names. So I don't like a guy stirring controversy, whether it's deliberate or not. It's everyone's interpretation, personal interpretation, but it has become a distraction, and I don't like that. So we'll see how that transpires. Also, Chad Green is Tommy John surgery, so he was one of Boone's most trusted arms. That's going to be something that we're going to have to look into. There's going to have to be people stepping up in his absence, so that's going to be interesting. Basketball, Golden State are the team to beat. I said it from the start, and I think they're going to go all the way. And I think since our last pod, James Bradbury's been cut, so I don't think we've talked about that. So we're going to have to get into what the options are outside corner.
It's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Pretty big.
I want to start off, and Luca, if you want to provide some insight outside wise as well.
Oh, can I just say this? I was very happy to meet Elijah Moore this weekend. Let me show you my
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I
Staten Island Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Got this right here. This picture might have been taken from the game I was at. Might have been Jets Dolphins when he burned. I think it was either Byron Jones or Xavier Howard for a touchdown. Joe Flacco was the quarterback.
Yeah, that was like my first professional football game.
You'll look back on that one day and be like, "Remember that? That was fun."
And then courtesy of our friend of the show, his name is Steven, but on Twitter, he's Sack Exchange. He gave me this. This was Elijah Vera Tucker signed autographed college ticket from USC.
Nice job. Very nice job.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fun meeting Elijah Moore. He's the second pro player I've really met. Yes. Alex. When Alex went up to Elijah Moore's like, I don't know if I can, take a picture with that Giants jersey on. He's wearing the other.
That's jersey. My man right there. I would do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but he was legit chill. He was so chill. Yeah. He's like, you know what? I want smiles. And then my sister just, after we met him and we, waited for the bus, my sister's like, oh my God, I want to marry him. She was so starstruck. And then she tweeted about it on Twitter, and Elijah Moore's dad tweeted at her.
Oh, nice.
It's nice. Yeah, you got to get in with the family. I mean, that's the best way to win somebody's heart is if you get in with the family. So your sister's on her way.
Next is Sunday dinners. Next, you can watch the playoffs together in the couch because the Jets won't be in the playoffs. So.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Ooh.
Donald, man.
We started off the show with some fire. I see how
7
it is,
minutes
Donald.
in.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. That was
okay. I admit that was a good one.
It was a layup, man. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
He had to take it. It was an open bunny. But I do want to get started on some. You could consider it more. It's not really widely talked about, but like Giants controversy. I know Bobby commented on it. I know Justin commented on it. Maybe he knows what I'm talking about. But with that being said, shouts to MH Jets Mess in the chat. John Feliciano a couple of days ago had an interview, and there was some stuff jumbled into it, but he also said that he's kind of happy not to be in Buffalo anymore because he didn't get to play a lot, and that he's happy that he's not there anymore. And the interesting part of that is, and what a lot of people take out of it is that his offensive coordinator and his offensive line coach actually are in New York with him, and his offensive line coach gave him a pretty nice. I wouldn't say nice, but yeah, give him a compliment, calling him dirtbag. So, with that being said, Justin, like, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so our guy Manny Madrigal, he went and he listened to the full interview, and after I made my initial comments it was kind of like I was kind of mad, like, and it kind of also just confused of why is John Feliciano saying these things, especially when his offensive line coach and his former offensive coordinator. They're on the Giants, and his former offense coordinator isn't just the OC. He's the head coach. So I was kind of confused on why he was kind of saying some of the things. But Manny did listen to the whole interview, our guy Manny Madrigal, and he said he talked glowingly about the Bills. And it's one of those things where if you get a juicy part of an interview, you're going to clip it and you're going to put it on social media, and people are going to overreact to it, which I think that is exactly what happened here. But I still am not going to go off of the whole thing of John Feliciano talks like he is kind of a really good football player and like a Pro Bowl caliber player. John Feliciano was not. The Bills' offensive line gelled a lot better when John Feliciano was not in the lineup and when he wasn't in the rotation, whether it is at guard or at center. They did gel and they did run the ball a lot better. They performed a lot better when he was not in the lineup last year. So he's salty about, which I would be too. He's salty about not only just being benched, but also the team just doing better when he wasn't in there. And he said the reason why, he was really mainly upset is because he felt like the team needed attitude and the team needed edge. I don't know in a game where you're scoring over 40 points, the offense needs a little bit more edge. Neither here nor there. I do want a competitor that wants to play. If he didn't want to play and he was just like, yeah, I'm cool with being benched, then that's kind of worrisome, because you want a guy that's going to get out there, compete, and play. And Feliciano's certainly like that, but he just talks like he's a lot better than he actually is. And that's the thing that kind of irked me and bugged me. So,
Donald.
I mean, listen, I actually quite like the Feliciano signing because, he's an league average center, or, he'll play league average center, and that's an upgrade. That's an upgrade. That is an upgrade for us. So I'll take it every day. And the dirtbag thing, I just kind of found it funny. As Dan Duggan says, it's a term of endearment. Used as a term of endearment from the O-line coach. So yeah, that's where I'm at on it. I'm not looking too deeply into it. If he was happy that he wasn't playing, then that would be a far bigger issue, to be honest. He wants to play, fine. Let's go. You know what I mean? I'm quite happy with our O-line depth. Now it was finally been addressed by Joe Shane and company.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't know how to feel when I first listened, when I first got the grip of everything. But it's going to be interesting, and I feel like now, obviously, us fans can't really get much into everything. Like we don't have hands on everything. But I know there was a shit ton of people last year. And even since the injury, like they're going to be on Nick Gates' side. This is only going to propel them on Nick Gates' side even more because Feliciano is basically talking all.
Can I ask an outsider question?
Go ahead.
You guys think that the talk kind of Feliciano is kind of motivated since he might be thrust into a starting role? Could it motivate him to be a better player? I know he's like a veteran. Maybe he's reached his peak, whatever. Maybe. You guys need some edge. He gives you that, as Justin was saying. So maybe it gets him to compete better. But I'm just saying this is from an outsider's perspective. So,
So Alex, I want you to save your thought because Luke, I think you bring up an absolutely great point because the Giants just need leadership. The Giants need like a veteran presence in the locker room. I'm going to find a tweet that Bobby Skinner had this morning where he compiled how many games, some of the most amount of games that Giants players have played this year. So top total games played for the Giants. Sterling Shepard leads them with 72. Then next is Dexter Lawrence, 48, Julian Love, 48, Saquon Barkley, 44, Darius Slayton, 43, Leonard Williams, 41. So that's games played for the Giants, not just games in their career. Because obviously Leonard Williams has played more than 41 games in his career. But just think about that, how inexperienced this Giants roster is, even just playing with the Giants. So they do need that edge. They do need a guy that is going to have that edge. And even if, Alex, you were talking about Nick Gates. Nick Gates, he brings that edge, but it's by example. I don't think Nick Gates is going to be that guy in practice to really kick everybody in the ass and say, come on, another rep. Come on, let's practice harder. Come on, let's go harder. Come on, let's get after it today. And that's really the Giants kind of need that. You look up and down the roster, where is that guy that's going to do that? You could say Blake Martinez. Besides him, who is going to be that guy? And I think Feliciano can be one of those guys where he's not just a nasty player on the field and dirtbag and stuff like that, but I also think he can be that vocal guy as well. And I think that is valuable. And Luka, you talked about playing better. I think he's motivated because he's going to be playing center. Whereas the last couple years,
he's going to be, isn't that like the position he actually wants to play?
Yes, exactly. So the last couple of years, he's kind of been mainly at guard, and I think he's gotten spot starts at center. But it was very strange when he signed with the Giants, Feliciano. The Giants tweeted out, the Giants have signed center John Feliciano, not offensive lineman, not interior offensive lineman. They tweeted out specifically center. And I think that was very, very much on purpose. So I think he's motivated by that he wants to show center's my spot. This is my spot. This is where I'm going to be. And this is also where I'm going to get the most money too at center. So,
yeah.
Donald, any thoughts off of that?
My question, do you think there's any chance that Nick Gates could be a cap casualty? Because he's carrying quite a high cap number for what he is. And considering the depth on the O-line and considering the weaknesses that we have in the secondary, at safety and corner, is there a chance that he's a cap casualty?
I mean, personally, I don't mean to interrupt. I would disagree because, I thought that if any case, they would have done it earlier. They did the James Bradbury thing because it carried so much. Gates, I mean, I don't know where we're not given a specific timeline of his rehab. We know he's in a red jersey in OTAs, but we don't know where he is, which, we'll see what happens. Nobody's expecting him to be 100% in week 1. That's why they have Feliciano. That's why they signed him. But I think they just would have done it earlier. Like Darius Slayton, a lot of people wanted him gone at the beginning of the offseason because he carries, $2.5 million in cap savings. Yeah, they didn't do that. So now they, or they, and otherwise maybe not as a cap casualty, but if they don't play up to their spot in camp, kind of like somebody like Matt Pear,
Right.
You signed how many offensive tackles? Like Matt Gano's one of them. Maybe some of these undrafted free agents. If they're better than Matt Pear, they're gonna cut him. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
And maybe a lot of Giant fans will disagree. Like, a couple of years ago, the Giants cut Ryan Connolly. He was coming back from a serious injury, and they kept Devontae Downs. Was it a good thing? No, but it was a coaching staff, general manager made decision. That it still haunts me to just memorize. And, I can't think of the word right now, but just to memorize the fact that Devontae Downs actually played meaningful snaps at linebacker for the Giants was very scary.
Yeah.
I do like Gates. It wasn't necessarily me stating
No,
like what I was thinking. I just think that it's worth raising that question because the Bradbury cut is mostly just to cover the draft that we just had, because we didn't have the cap to cover that. So, that little bit of extra money that we'd free up if when his rehab is complete, would that allow us to maybe go into the market and maybe get an upgrade in some other areas? Because, there's some weaknesses that we didn't really establish in the draft. Justin?
Yeah, the only thing that I think of alongside of, I think they would have done it already if they really felt like they needed to. But also the thing is that I think you would have to have some sort of injury settlement with him. So I think they figured if they can put him on some sort of list. I love that phrase that I kind of made up, where whether it's an IR or a pup, what some sort of list in the game of football that you can put Nick Gates on, and maybe they can save some money if they have insurance or whatever. However that works, if they can kind of stash him away if he's not ready, then they may do that. Because if they do flat out cut him, it says on Spot Rack and Over the Cap and all that stuff, it says that you saved that $2 million.
Right.
But are you really saving that because is he going to get an injury settlement? So that's the only thing that I think that's also in the back of my brain. That's why maybe they're not doing it. So
it's a good point.
Definitely. Blue City says justice for Josh Donaldson, free JD. Yes, we'll get into that definitely later on. Thoughts on this? And I don't really, contrary to what I'm actually going to talk about next, I don't really like bringing up past stuff with the Giants because we're all in a move forward kind of motivation. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. Thoughts on Bobby Johnson's comments talking about the scarring mental tissue from the last coaching staff on these offensive linemen? Does that hold any water with you guys? I'll start with Justin.
Yeah, it does. And it's not even just the previous coaching. How many? No, we'll go with the previous coaching staff because is Andrew Thomas not the longest tenured Giant on the offensive line? I think he is. So it is the previous coaching staff. So, and it's not the Shermer coaching staff, but we talked with Thomas in our interview, and he talked about how difficult it is for the lack of continuity on the offensive line with different starters and then also just different coaches. And Andrew Thomas has had 1, 2, 3 different offensive line coaches since he's been a pro in just 2 years, which even, he's only had one coach, but he's had 3 different offensive line coaches. So that's even 4, a lot actually. Of, what was that?
I think it's 4 because you had Colombo, you had DeWelmo, you had Sale, and now you have Bobby Johnson.
This is his 4th. Yes. So Alex,
that's wild.
You're totally right.
Wild.
Yeah, man. So he talked about that, and he just flat out said he didn't even dance around. He said it's tough. The lack of continuity in the NFL with whether it's playing next to somebody or just going through all these different coaching changes. So yeah, it does mean something, and especially for offensive line. I think it's the most important group that needs that continuity. I think wide receivers, you can kind of deal with it. Secondary, you can deal with it, especially when you're playing a man coverage heavy scheme. you can deal with a lot with some changes. But I think offensive line, for those 5 guys to play together and play as one, it's the most important group that needs that. So absolutely, I think it does mean something when Bobby Johnson says that.
Donald.
Of course, you never go against what a current coach is saying about the mentality of a player in regards to the previous coaching staff. He's more in the know than anyone. I mean, he'll know exactly what's going on and what these players have gone through, and that lack of continuity is a very important point, man, because every coach is going to have a different style, a different approach, and it's really important now that Andrew Thomas has one voice, which he can trust and move forward with. But Thomas did a great job last year, despite all the coaching problems and all the stuff going on in the Giants. So I mean, that is a good thing. But I do completely agree with him. I think there will be an element of mental scarring for sure. Yeah. I'm mentally scarred. I don't know about anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now Donald brings up a good point, because I was actually going to bring that up next. Like when you see the headline of mental scarring and all that stuff, and Justin brought up a side point of continuity and all that stuff, because obviously he interviewed Andrew Thomas. But when I think of what Bobby Johnson said about mental scarring, I'm thinking about the tough practices that they went through, the soft tissue injuries, the torn ACLs. That's what I'm talking. That's what I automatically think with the mental scarring.
Wouldn't you say that's physical scarring when it comes to like body issues? Like,
but
you mentioned
the mentality of the
I understand what you're saying, though.
Exactly. So would you guys like put it into that account that it's not just the continuity, but it's also the way they were treated?
I'm not sure about that necessarily.
In terms of it being like too physical and like too tough on their bodies and stuff like that.
Yes.
Now this is the crappy thing. We were able to get in basically with every other coaching staff besides the Judge coaching staff. 2020 understandable due to COVID, but then last year they didn't have training camp open. So I can't even say like with my own eyes, where in previous years I would be able to say like Pat Shurmur, Ben McAdoo practice. I was there and I'm like, they're playing patty cake. And this is like a walk in the park for these players. And lo and behold, they weren't ready to rock and roll and play the actual game of football. Whereas we heard from day one that Judge's practices were intense. We heard that they were tough. We heard that they definitely pushed the envelopes of what they're allowed to do with the NFLPA. And the brief time that I was up in Massachusetts last year, because they didn't let me into Giants training camp, so I traveled up to Massachusetts to see the joint practices against the Patriots, which was a lot of fun. They were tough, and it was very, very physical. So it's a fine line, man. It's a fine line of how do you push these guys enough so that they're ready to go, but also not cost them in the long term in terms of the health. Because why were they so healthy in 2020? They were one of the healthiest teams in the NFL in 2020, and then they were so hurt in 2021. It's so random, at least in my opinion. I'm not smart enough to answer that.
I mean, it's not exact. Doesn't exactly take Sherlock Holmes to wonder why all these people started retiring after signing for the Giants, and then they just started randomly retiring after a couple of days of practice with Joe Judge. So there was something going on serious in practice where they'd be like, "No, I'm not taking part in this. I'd rather just retire."
I know Alex was in denial regarding this,
and Giants fans weren't.
I know.
I saw the red flags personally, but
well, Donald, you are smarter than others.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I saw the red flags.
Oh, you are, Donald. I know this.
How you got a timer for?
It was the fries. Give me
Fritos? No, not the Fritos.
Fries. He's cooking fries.
Fried? No, but what is it? Tostitos. Ma, the Tostitos ready?
The meatloaf. Ma,
meatloaf.
Now, here's a hypothetical question regarding something we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Do any of us think that now? There is another question that goes into this as well. Does Nick Gates have a real shot winning at center or getting some time at center this year? And to partner with that question, is there any other center on the roster besides him and Feliciano? I'll start with Justin.
Ben Bredesen was taking snaps. That doesn't. I don't. He's not a center, but he was taking some snaps. So Ben Bredesen's also a possibility too. Max Garcia should get. He should be able to snap the ball. There's also there's a fun reality that Shane Lemieux can snap the ball. And he hasn't been doing this. Like, he's been lining up at left guard and he's been starting. But imagine a world where, first of all, I don't think Nick Gates is coming back this year. I don't think so. And I'm not saying this because I know anything. Sometimes I say things when I whisper know things, so I can sound smart. But I genuinely don't know. And Bobby hasn't asked him and anything like that. So I don't know. I'm willing to bet that he's not. But imagine a nice little world where Azudu can be that athletic guard that we know that he can kind of develop into. And this doesn't even have to be this year. And then Shane Lemieux, because he's kind of has these pass blocking deficiencies, it gets a lot easier when you go to center. So if he learns to snap the ball, that's kind of a fun offensive line, left to right. Let's go Thomas, Azudu, Lemieux, and then whatever the right side forms out to be with Neil at right tackle, obviously. So Glowinski for the next 2 years. So, so in terms of Gates, I don't think he's going to be here this year. And then I gave you some other center candidates.
Donald?
I mean, I don't see Nick Gates. That was a very serious injury. I don't see Nick Gates coming back.
It's tough, and it kills me. It kills me. It really does.
Yeah, because he's a warrior, and I like that. There wasn't enough of that. But yeah, I don't see it. I think what I do like is there's a lot of there's not just depth, but there's versatility in the offensive line. I mean, we just mentioned Azudu. He can play outside. He can also play guard. I mean, I think that is a common theme. Evan Neal's obviously versatility, can play on the left or the right side. I prefer him on the right, obviously, but Andrew Thomas, same thing. So there's a lot more versatility than we've had in previous years. I think that's probably the focus on our offensive line rather than center. I think it'll be Feliciano that'll be the center, taking most reps. Yeah. And Bredesen sucks. I don't want Bredesen starting.
It's an option. I mean, here's the thing. The Giants have a lot of depth, and it's one of those things where it may not be great. Like, even the starters, especially on the interior, are not fantastic, but there are names there, and they're not going to retire out of the blue, unlike last year. So that is the main difference between last year and this year, where, is the offensive line fixed? Probably not, but are there names there that if they're playing, you're like, okay, we're not absolutely screwed? That is 100% the case. And out of all 4 years of Dave Gettleman, you couldn't even say that.
Luca.
I was going to say, Joe Shane's putting in his guys, and, this is not the long-term solution, as Justin alluded to. This is going to be a finished product for another, maybe 2, maybe 3 years. I'm bringing my own team into this, obviously. Look at the Jets' offensive line from 2020 to 2022. We are I would say a top 12, top 10, possibly O-line if we really play up to it, if Becton is healthy. So, it's not a finished product, but you know what? I think it's definitely better than last year, in my opinion, from an outsider standpoint.
Here's what scares me. And I'm not saying this is it's on Joe Shane or whatever, but think about what Justin said. Their names. They're not great names, but they're solid names. Here's the thing, though, and I'm not trying to put any bad voodoo bullshit on the New York Giants and the staff. But wasn't Matt Skura supposed to be good? Wasn't he supposed to be at least decent? But
it was Bredesen. It was Bredesen that was supposed to be decent. But he just never played
too. Yeah, but just maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. But I just felt like that unit with the veterans, where they came from, Skura was very playable in Baltimore. He did get cut with Miami, and then he comes to the Giants, and it's just not a good product. Will Hernandez, I mean, we all know the story with him. He got worse every single year.
Magically. I don't know how that happened.
Coaching.
Dramatically worse. Every single year, he got worse.
he was highly rated coming out of that draft. So I think a lot of it comes
like NFL people, not just Giants people. Like NFL people were talking about, oh, that's a steal, that's a steal, that's a steal. He somehow got worse. So, but Alex, I get your point, and I get your point. But so I guess maybe like the guy that we can compare it to, and I think the guy to be that candidate of coming in and then falling expectations, and I do think Giants fans are putting a lot of expectation on him, is Mark Lewinsky. Like I think he's like the guy. He's like the guy this year where Giants fans are expecting him to be like, they're expecting him to be Kevin Zeitler light, and he's not going to be. So the difference between bringing in Mark Lewinsky though and Matt Skora, Ben Bredeson, you're talking about Skora and Ben Bredeson being on like practice squads. Lewinsky has been a starter and also a starter on a Colts offensive line that is like top 10 in the National Football League for the last couple of years too. And they've been a very, very good unit, particularly a good run blocking unit. So that's the difference between like, hey, putting a little bit of expectation on Lewinsky versus like Skora, Bredeson, all these other guys that we tried to just pigeonhole and shoehole in, and they just were not good.
Yeah, and it's also not just that. Shouts to Nimmer, by the way. He says that the Giants will go 11-6. That's very high hopes there.
Oh my! I may have a stroke.
But it wasn't. What scared me is not just about these names didn't work out. It was because of the lack of depth that we had. Yeah. So this is my PTSD of the last couple of years and the Giants not having depth. Is, oh my God, what if a guy like Jamil Douglas makes the roster? He's good in the preseason, then he gets snaps, and then he's not very good. Mm-hmm. And then, like Max Garcia as well. Like he started 11 games last year for the Cardinals. He started at guard a little bit, center too. And what if he's not as good as advertised? And maybe, this could lead into my next question. And it's a very interesting one because I know a lot of Giant fans are very high on our third round pick. A lot of Giant fans, they would rather start Max Garcia. But how do you think the coaching staff and how would you go about the left guard position? And with that being said, are you sort of surprised that Shane Lemieux isn't wearing a quote unquote red jersey at OTAs? I'll start with Justin.
I love that he's not. It means that he's just he's ready to rock and roll. And they're not doing any big contact stuff anyway at these OTAs. So I kind of think, why are you wearing the red jersey if you're not making contact anyway? I guess it's just the designation that they have, which is cool. Hey, it lets us know, hey, you're ready to go. You're not ready to go. Cool. So I love that Shane Lemieux doesn't have that red jersey on. So by the time we suited up in August, cool. Let's put him in pads and let's see what he's got. So they have shown that they are willing to take things slow with guys like Tony, like Galladay, everything like that. So Tudo, love you, Tudo. I think the best version of the Giants offensive line this year is Shane Lemieux at left guard, Andrew Thomas at left tackle. I'm kind of adamant on that. And that's not to say that Azudu, I don't like him, but Azudu has things that he needs to work on. He needs to work on his hands. He is way too wide with his hands. He is crazy athletic. And I think if they want to run outside zone scheme and an outside zone kind of, rushing system a little bit, if they want to integrate that, which Dable, I think, wants to, I think he would be pretty good in that. But especially those hands and pass pro, it's got to get worked on. And I think Lemieux actually did a lot of work on his pass sets heading into last year. And it's a shame that we only got 30 snaps of what I thought was going to be a very, very improved Shane Lemieux from the 2020 season. So I do think the best version of the Giants offensive line this year, Shane Lemieux at left guard, playing next to Andrew Thomas and also John Feliciano.
Yeah, it was just about to ask you. It was like, you bought in on those 30 snaps from last year? Obviously, we now know.
You can't be. You can't be. But
yeah,
they were really good. They were really good. So,
and you would put him. And now I obviously trust you guys because you guys do watch the film. You would put him over Max Garcia at left guard.
Yeah, I would.
Donald?
I agree. I would say, though, I think I'm actually quite excited about Lewinsky. I mean, obviously, it was very limited what we could do in free agency. And I think it was a good contract, reasonable contract to sign, and he graded highly in run blocking. His PFF was very high in terms of run blocking. Pass protection, average. I think is probably the best you could say about that. But listen, I think that they're going to try and accentuate the run this year, get the best Saquon they can possibly get. So if they're getting a really good run blocker in there, then he's going to open up some holes for Saquon, and Saquon desperately needs some holes for him to get into. Now, I had some issues with the way Saquon runs in terms of hitting the hole, but when there'll be some holes opened up to him, that will only be a good thing. So, you've got Feliciano who's a decent run blocker. You've now got Glinski on the right side, very good run blocker. Now you've got the left and the right tackle who are very solid at that too. Then I think you're going to get a better run game, and that's something that's really important. And also, Daniel Jones won't be on his ass, which is also good too. So that's the way I take it. And yeah, I mean, the way that this, I don't think Izudu's definitely not ready yet at all.
Yeah.
I had other guards rated higher than him in the draft, but he could be something maybe by tail end of this year, going into next year, you might start seeing some reps for him. But yeah, I think it's going to be Lemieux at left guard.
Fellas, we got this Yankee game on?
Yep, Aaron Judge 2-homer game.
Oh my God, Aaron Judge, beautiful man.
Sign him already.
Pay the man,
please.
What a
Man,
game!
Nimor asked a very good question.
What?
Nimor asked a question.
Oh. He probably means, do you guys think Daniel Jones will be better? He better be this year. I'm not, and I've said this, I'm on record like 1,000 times. Saquon and Daniel Jones, I have no expectations for. Absolutely none. But if you guys want to take an opportunity to answer that question.
Donald, I want to go off of you because I have a very specific stance about expectations for this year.
Okay. So it's going to be in So listen, I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones fan. I'm not a big Daniel Jones stan. I just I don't think it's talent necessarily. I think it's between the ears with him. His football IQ is quite poor for a quarterback, really. But do I think he's going to be better under this Brian Daboll? Of course, Brian Daboll is one of the best offensive minds in the game. He certainly was in Buffalo. He did a hell of a job with Josh Allen. He will be better. I don't think he's the future quarterback. I'm pretty sure we'll be in the quarterback market next year. Well, we certainly should be. But I think Daniel Jones will be. I think he'll maybe gravitate to league average, which he certainly hasn't been since his rookie year. So that will maybe be. I don't really know. I was going to ask Justin. Are the Giants? Well, I know John Mara loves him, absolutely adores Daniel Jones, but is the new regime as in love with him as John Mara is? And is there scope for, or like for instance, in the hiring process? Because I know that obviously when Gettleman was getting interviewed, I think Eli was a big topic of conversation. Was Daniel Jones a big topic of conversation, and is that why they went offensive mind with that to make him better?
The nice thing about them going offensive mind, and I don't think it's just a reflection of Daniel Jones. I think it's just a reflection of where the league is at. And Dan Schneider said something that was really, really perfect on today's show. And I think this reflects both the NFL draft and then also coaching decisions and also front office decisions that they've made too. Every pick to me, this is what Dan Schneider said on today's show. Every pick to me had a focus on stopping the pass or passing the football. And that's really where the Giants mentality has like shifted this offseason. They didn't have a single special team signing this offseason where, hey, they signed a guy or they drafted a guy and we're like, oh, this guy's just a special teamer. Not a single guy. I mean, there's going to be some, like I think a Yusuf Corker can be an immediate special teams guy, but that's a UDFA. Hey, Dane Belton could be a special teams guy day one, but these guys are also going to play the game of football too, not just on special teams. So that's also what's different about this offseason too. I don't think John Mara and Giants brass had in their brains, how are we going to hire somebody that's going to improve Daniel Jones? I think they really did say, how are we going to improve the New York Giants? And
good. Good
and I think with Gettleman, I think Eli was in mind, and I don't think Daniel Jones is in mind as much. But in
That's
terms
good
of
to hear.
expectations with Jones,
Right, the expectations,
Saquon,
yeah.
and the team, I want to throw it to Luca.
Okay.
I'm still gonna save. I want to
Okay.
hear Jets. You're a Jets fan.
All right. I'm listening.
I want to hear what are you looking for out of this year? What do you want to happen? Because I feel like
Okay.
Giants and Jets fans couldn't be more different in terms of what they want out of the year 2022, but the rosters are kind of somewhat similar. I'd probably give the edge to the Jets, but the rosters are somewhat similar, and I do think their wins-loss records are going to be very, very similar by year's end. But the expectations that both fan bases have for their teams are very different. Where are you at?
All right, so I'm going to give my opening thoughts on the Giants. I mean, when you guys talked about Daniel Jones this year, to me, two things come in mind. How much will Daniel Jones improve, number one? Number two, will, the coaching staff be kind of motivated to keep him with his improvement, which I don't think they will, my personal opinion. It's going to be about that in year 4 for Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to blow people out of the water. Does he perform better? I think he does with the coaching staff and the talent around him, with an actual NFL offense. But I just don't see, him taking a Josh Allen leap. Now, for the Jets, a lot of people saying playoffs. Sure, I would love to make the playoffs, but here's the thing. This is a loaded AFC we have. So what I'm looking for out of the season, let me start with my win total. I want 8 to 10 wins. 7 I can reason with, personally. For a team, I want this team to be in games till December, January. We want to play meaningful games in December and January. I am sick and tired of being out of the playoffs by October and talking draft. It's annoying as hell. That's why we're all saying change the narrative. Let's toughen up. I think we did a good job in the offseason. This is honestly my favorite offseason watching as a Jet fan because, we had the 2009, 2010. I was small. I didn't really understand football, but, I was kind of watching the Jets still. But now I'm going to say Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, he does not need to take that Josh Allen leap, but, he needs to cement himself as at least a top 20 average quarterback. To be perfectly honest, he was not an average quarterback last year. He was below average. His start last year was pretty bad. Games like the Patriots game, the Broncos game, he looked so lost. Let's be real. So he finished the year off on a very good note. I love Mike LaFleur, what he's done. He simplified the offense for Wilson. I love what Joe Douglas has done. He's added a guy in Laken Tomlinson. We'll see what Mekhi Becton comes back to do this year. We added freaking 3 tight ends, 1 via draft, 2 free agency, added Garrett Wilson, added Breece Hall, all these, explosive guys. So I think I think the season's really going to depend on Robert Saleh, making that next step as a head coach, because through the beginning of the season, he was just finding it, that's how I saw it. We didn't see his true personality, it was a mess. Let's be real. It was a mess. But towards the end of the season, from about maybe weeks 12 and on, you finally got to see his personality. He started holding guys accountable, and that's what we'd like to see. You saw him finally getting angry at the refs and shit. I love seeing that out of a coach, because we haven't really had a coach that's been emotional since Big Rex. Let's be real. Bowles was quiet. Gase was just miserable. Let's be real. Everybody's saying, Zach Wilson improvement. Yeah, that's a very essential part of where the Jets, land this year. Is Zach Wilson going to take that next step as a quarterback? And I wouldn't even mind if he, game manages this year for the first couple of games, and then he takes that step. But it's also dependent on Robert Saleh. The defense was 32nd last year. You cannot play worse than that. That was probably one of the worst Jet defenses ever. But, the coaching staff, I have trust in the offensive coaching staff. Let's see what the defensive coaching staff does. And next step for Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh. That's going to make this year very important, crucial. That's the make or break.
I agree with you, just in regards to, I think there's going to be a similar win record. I think the Jets will maybe win 1 more game than the Giants, at most. I think the Giants I had the Giants winning 7 games, the Jets winning 8 games, or something around that range. You're asking my expectations for the Giants this year? My expectations is establishing a culture. That is the most important thing for me. And it's also, obviously that was a big word that Joe Judge used to love to use, establishing a culture, but it needs to be establishing the right culture. And
Well,
a culture
Donaldson, I'm going to stop you right there, because how do you establish a culture? Like, let's not beat around the bush. How do you establish a culture?
Well, first of all, you need to develop guys properly, and we haven't really developed properly.
Simple. How do you establish
leaders?
No, even
Wins.
Simpler.
Wins.
You gotta win games.
I know.
You can't win games.
You can't establish a culture without wins. Yeah,
And I'm not
because
talking
there's no
about
such
winning.
thing as a culture without wins. I completely agree.
I'm not talking about winning 10 games. I'm talking about winning more than 4. So that's
Definitely.
like when Alex, go ahead.
I'm going to add something, and Justin's going to love that I'm bringing this up. He's adding. Well, he said in one of his podcasts that he wants to be winning games like 2015 and not 2020 with the offense.
Yeah, if we have a 2015, and believe me, at the time, 2015, the Giants, Donald, if you were watching and you were in tune that year.
Well, of course.
That was the year.
I'm ancient.
that was the
I've been
year
following
where
the Giants since the 80s. So yeah, pretty much I watched it in 2015.
That was the year where if the games ended with 30 seconds to go, the Giants would have had like 10 wins, and they finished the season 6-10, and they went up. They battled against Dave Gettleman's 2015 Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton. They lost 38-35, and Odell went bananas that year and everything like that. So 2015, even though it was Coughlin's last year, 2015, I look back on that as an extremely fun season. It was a roster
that year.
It was a roster that was terrible. It was an offensive line that was terrible. They couldn't do anything except try and not even come back late in the game, but they couldn't do anything besides Eli Manning's arm, and they would blow games at the end. But the thing that was common about all those games, and most of those games, is that the Giants offense were scoring points, and the Giants offense was exciting, and that they were close games every single week. So yeah, they blew it, and it wound up costing Tom Coughlin's job. But if we look back at this year and we're like, oh, heartbreaking loss, 34-31. Oh, heartbreaking loss, 27-24, 31-24. Heartbreaking loss. If that's how we're looking back at this year, I like that. What was 2010? Wasn't 2010 all about heartbreaking losses and the biggest heartbreaker of all against the Eagles? Then what do? They come back in 2011 and then they actually finish. So it's about establishing the culture, winning games, winning more than 4 games. It's all part of it, but also being competitive in football games, like Lucas said, from up until November and December. So I do not have to hear the words NFL draft. So I do not have to hear the words off season. So I do not have to have Dave Gettleman GM head coaching conversations in the month of November. That is not what I want. You don't establish the quote unquote. You don't establish a culture
without winning.
You develop guys by winning. You gain momentum as a team. You gain chemistry as a team by having those Sundays in the locker room, those Mondays in the locker room where you're celebrating a victory. That's how you start it. And even if it doesn't come at a double-digit rate in a single season, if you improve on a year-by-year basis wins-wise, that is how you're going to do it. And that is why
I agree. There's no such thing as a culture. There's no such thing as a culture. There's no such thing as a culture when you win 4 games. That just does not exist. The only culture that exists after 4 games is a losing culture.
I'm very passionate about this year. I'm
very
100%.
Passionate. Yeah, 100%.
Because Giants fans are saying that, I don't really care. This year is not about this year. This year's about 2023. No. That's the mentality that that's the mentality.
You know what I miss, Justin?
Years have had.
What you just mentioned, 2015. This is something I miss. I miss being emotionally invested.
Yes.
In the Giants, and for the last few years, honestly, after week 1, I'm pretty much scouting who's coming up in the next year's draft. That's pretty much how it's been for the Giants, because you can just tell when it's just you know, and like 2015, I missed it because I missed that emotion, that investment that I had. The last time I was really emotionally invested was when Gano killed us with that 65-yard field goal. Yes. I was so upset. I threw my jersey out and I walked out. In the middle of the street. And I was like, and I miss that. You know, I really miss caring so much because the last few years I've just been watching, going, there's another loss. Okay, let's watch Red Zone. Let's watch Red Zone. Oh, good, another loss. That helps our draft stock. I don't want to be like that anymore, man. When under Tom Coughlin, I never missed a snap, and I was just diehard, insane Big Blue, and I just miss that feeling. So if Joe Shane and Brian Dable and that can help bringing that emotion, that energy that I miss having as a fan, I would love that, because I just don't like expecting losses. That's not something that you want as a fan, man.
No.
You want something to get behind. You know, as a Nick fan, I've been a long-suffering Nick fan, but at least for that year that they gave me last year, I missed that, and I was emotionally invested in that. I loved that, because for the previous 10 years, I think we're flying fuck because we're always losing. So, you know what I mean? So at least give me something, Giants, and I'm sure they will.
Hopefully. Luca, you have a point to bring up?
Well, I was going to say two things. Number one, I see this year for the Giants as like last year for the Jets and what it was. You know, there are some differences, there are some similarities, but let me just say the difference this year, I think, is the Giants have the talent to take advantage of a very easy schedule. They should win, I think, 7 games. That's what I say.
I think so too.
And you know, it's not just the meaningful games, especially in this rebuilding year and establishing the culture. You got to get better down the stretch. I mean, that's why did we get excited for Joe Judge, except for those games like the Browns and, the Cardinals, which was, that's obliteration right there. Why did we get excited? Because, no matter how we won games, we won games.
5-3 in the last 8 games.
Yeah. And that's why we saw, okay, now the next year, I'll admit myself, like in Pat Shurmur's first year, I kind of had some blind faith myself at the end of the season. Now the defense was terrible. Okay. I have this theory now, obviously maybe it's a theory known to Giants fans, that the beginning of the year, the defense was good. The offense was bad. Then it totally flipped in the second half of the season in 2018. But, the second half of the season, some people, including myself, were encouraged, by losing to the Colts, by losing to the Cowboys, because those were very, very close games that the defense blew, that the offense was winning. So it made you feel like maybe a little bit of 2015 again. And I was actually ripped on Instagram, I remember, because I was comparing it to that. But then the next year they go out and draft all these guys, and it's a complete shit show with the defense. Nothing got better, and but that's one of the main things this has to be, is getting better down the stretch and just improving, because next year also as well. I mean, we talk about this year and what Joe Shane did in free agency. Yeah, I mean that was limited cap. Next year, is he going to actually go out and sign all the free agents that the Giants fans hope for, or is he going to go out and draft more of a foundation? And, I kind of want to, there was a topic I wanted to bring up, but I want to talk about it now. I looked a little bit in advance, and I'll get to the comments as well after I ask this question, is I looked into next year's free agency. Now, I think I would probably get the agreeance on this panel that Adoree Jackson's probably not going to be here next year, if it makes financial sense. In that case, you got to go after a number 1 cornerback. I know there's that guy out of Alabama that I think Tony, shout out to him, he's in the chat. He was talking to me about the cornerback. I don't know his name. But other than Marcus Peters, there's no other number 1 cornerback. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do things.
James Bradbury will be a free agent.
What?
James Bradbury is going to be a free agent after this year.
Yes, totally.
I'm kidding. No, you want to know what? Like, if we really want to get crazy, sign Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Oh my,
that would be a treat.
That would be crazy. I don't think Joe Shane's going to do that though. I kind of have this feeling that they're gonna draft from within. They're gonna also try and sign their guys, which that's what the Giants just haven't done. Number one, the Giants haven't drafted well enough to extend their guys to begin with. Number one. But number 2, they just haven't. Even some of the guys that you can maybe make an argument that they do deserve to stay and things like that, it just hasn't worked out. And Landon Collins, hey, kind of glad they didn't give him all that money. Odell, kind of glad they didn't keep him long term. It's
Dalvin. I mean, his numbers.
Dalvin's a very good example of that. You could have maybe worked out a deal where we could sit back and be like, yeah, is this a little bit of an overpay for defense tackle, but doesn't make sense? Yeah. I do prefer Dory Jackson over Dalvin Tomlinson if it comes down to one or the other. Would have rather had Dalvin Tomlinson than Kyle Rudolph, if we're even going to compare it to that. So Dalvin Tomlinson's a great example of even just like another good football player that, that we drafted, and he actually was good, and we just can't keep him in the building. So that's where I think Joe Schoen is eventually going to kind of lean on, trying to extend these guys maybe a little early, like an Andrew Thomas, trying to extend them a little early and stuff like that. And I think he's going to bargain hunt, and I think he's also going to rely on drafting, because that's kind of like what the Bills have done as well. So
I agree. I don't think he's going to be chasing stars as much as Gettleman did. I think he's going to be judicious. I think the term judicious in terms of free agency is the way that Shane will approach things. Just like, for instance, we just saw this free agency. Now, I know that he was up against it, but there was probably some ways in which he maneuvered and he could have star chased, but I think he was quite judicious in the way he wanted to approach free agency.
Yeah.
I think that's how he's going to be in general. I think he's going to be kind of smart about he's certainly going to emphasize if he's going to sign somebody in free agency, I think he's going to be looking at someone who's on the younger side rather than like someone that's the tail end of his career. I think
he drafted that way, and so did the Bills. They draft that way.
I think it will be all about the draft for Shane, and that's something that's really important. So because we can go right through the list of mistakes that previous regimes have made where they've drafted somebody who's actually worked out pretty well, but haven't re-signed them for one reason or the other. So that would be a good change welcome change if we start doing that. But it has to be the right ones. But yeah, no, I think I'm really excited about the Joe Schoen era. I think he's going to bring. Well, he's just brought such a nice. I just feel so very comfortable when he's speaking. I'm just relaxed. I'm like when I listen to Dave Gettleman speak,
it's so boring.
I'm pulling my hair out listening to Dave Gettleman.
I love Dave. Can I say?
Okay,
his press conferences were gold, though.
I miss him, and I wish he was. I wish he was good at his job because he is the funniest person I have ever set my eyes on.
There's a lot of
he is hilarious. Yes. So what I would do, I don't know if you guys knew this. What I would do, and I had dinner with Zach Rosenblatt a couple times, and he told me that the videos that I would do got passed around the beat. I would make compilations of Dave Gettleman's best moments from each of his press conferences the last 2 years. And that was honestly one of my favorite content to do, was just to watch. It would be maybe like a 10-minute presser. And I would have 2 minutes and 20 seconds of just awesome moments of these are just moments where I'm laughing, and I'm laughing out loud. So that would be my favorite thing of content that I would do, is compilation of Dave Gettleman funny moments of press conferences.
Computer people?
Well, no, that was before I started it. But that was
gold.
He kind of kicked himself off really well after he did that. Man, it's so bad, but it's funny.
I agree with that.
Funny.
That's true. It was gold.
I miss him.
Blue City says, I wonder what Dave Gettleman is doing now.
I actually know.
Oh my God. Insider info.
I'm sourced up on this. I don't know what he's doing this moment, but you know how the joke was, I want to retire to Cape Cod after I draft the Giants' future quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
You know how he said that? He is not vacationing in Cape Cod. He is vacationing in Greece. I knew I have it on very, very good authority of somebody who's very close to him. Very, very close to him, that he is not vacationing at Cape Cod, that he is vacationing in Greece this summer. So
there you go.
That is where
he's
in
an entirely different continent to stay as far away from the Giants fans as possible.
If you're going to Greece this summer, then keep an eye out for a short, chubby, waddling old man
with a Boston accent.
Maybe
he'll take stake in a soccer team there or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. Become the GM of that? Let's do it.
Panathinaikos. Yeah, become the GM of Panathinaikos.
Because
there's a couple
I
more
am Greek,
comments you
I
didn't get to.
personally hope that's not the case. What'd you say, Luca?
There's a couple of comments that you missed before the Blue City
Yes.
person.
So this one's an interesting one. This one's about the Jets. I would rather play Flacco this year and let Zach learn the game. He was way in over his head last year. Luca's
Agreed.
shaking his head. I have a couple of comments to get to, Luca. I'm just gonna, and then I'll let you go. Dodgers perfect game, 9-0 on the Nats in the 6th. Tuda with his usual. Luca's impersonating of Daniel Jones. Yes.
Oh, can we see that?
Oh yeah, I want to see
Oh
that.
God, no!
Please let it be good.
Luca, if you want, I'll have you pull it up, Mr. Producer, kind of thing. I'll have you pull it up.
I'm good.
You can't just do it on the spot right now.
Party pooper.
All right,
come on,
maybe.
man.
All right,
Yes.
Let's go.
Oh well, I mean, I didn't mean do it, but if you want to go ahead and do it,
No,
Justin said do it on the spot. I mean, I wouldn't do that to my guest.
No, Luca, you got to get the helmet.
Oh,
All right,
Put on your bathrobe like you used to. Come on, this is.
Are you gonna fumble it? Is that the joke?
I'm really excited for this. I have no idea what's about to go on.
God.
This could go in a lot of different directions. Well, look at the hair.
Luca decided to put this in the entry pool, so now that we are.
This is gonna be an all-time moment.
That's a giant.
Are you wearing a giant helmet? You're actually gonna put on a giant helmet?
Oh, it's like
Isn't that what I always do, Alex?
Yes.
You're a baller, man. Because I would never ever wear a jet helmet.
Your hair's like perfectly placed on your head.
Thank you, Justin.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, put the
Only in
on
Boys in the Big Apple Pod, everybody.
Wow.
Only in the Boys in the Big Apple Pod.
Donald's right. You will never get this anywhere else.
This is unique. This is unique even for me.
All right.
Yeah, when this started, this was pre-Donald Stewart times.
This is beautiful.
All right, you got the chin strap. Or you could do it without.
I'm
cool.
I mean, I doubt anybody's going to tackle you, man. So I don't think you need to.
You say he's almost there.
Oh, he's going to break his neck.
I'm almost at my grave.
All right, it's on.
Bathrobe.
Oh, you've even got the Giants.
A lot of people want to go back to that.
Me too. I do.
All right.
God. I'm not ready for this.
Uh-oh.
We gonna have an interception? We gonna fall?
Is he gonna fumble it?
Do your best. Do your best.
Or is he gonna dive and fall over? Is it from the running? Is that what it is?
All right. Well,
who knows?
This camera on.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Alex, say it.
All right.
Oh, he died.
You didn't patty cake the ball.
Oh no, he got a patty cake.
What?
You didn't patty cake the ball, but that's okay.
Oh shit! Well,
do it again.
Oh boy.
Take 2. Snap the strap.
So was that you just being tackled from the invisible
being
man?
sacked?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Sorry for the first take. It's been a while since I did this.
It's been a while.
It's been a while since we saw
Omaha, hike.
It's a false. You want to get a false start? Hike it.
Alex, just say hike.
I said hike.
I said hike. It is Daniel Jones.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm looking. Oh no. Yeah, I feel like I'm sitting in section 315.
Oh boy. All right.
That was like, yeah, it's like
Bookend says I
every
want to
giant
see
game.
good quality, fun football. I want to lose because the other team was better, not because we were playing not to lose. Yes, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Nimmer says I think Joe Shane did excellent in free agency and the draft. Jets messes. Celtics are on fire. Obviously, Tudo with all of the comments about the Giants and his rugby. Let's see. Shouts to Jeffrey. Hope everyone's having a great night watching the Celtics game. Time to get a new quarterback. Yes.
Yeah, because Luca is Daniel Jones, and he just like died. So
yes.
Yes. Wonder who we're talking to right now. But how concerned are you guys with
Alex? You didn't let me respond to one of my comments.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Daniel Jones.
Okay, so Jets mess said that Joe Flacco should start. It seems like he was like pretty serious about the take. I couldn't disagree more. This is the second year for Zach Wilson. If you're going to play Joe Flacco, if you're going to bench Wilson for a couple of games to get his head, right, it would probably been better at the start of last year, like when he was really struggling. Not now when he needs to take that second year leap. That's what I got to say. Because that's as I said earlier, Zach Wilson's improvement is monumental to how this team functions.
Yeah,
it's not even a discussion. He has to start. I mean, look at the
exactly. Joe Flacco's not the future.
He's going into year 2. The amount of money that is invested in the second in the where he was drafted, it's far too much to have him sit on the bench.
I would agree with I would agree with Jets mess.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm a massive fan of Wilson, but there's no way that you could have.
I think the second overall pick of the 2021 draft should sit his second year after starting his first year. I'm a fan.
Blue City puts, so Luca, how does it feel to be the new Giants quarterback and learning under Daniel Jones?
That's an interesting experience, I'm learning a lot of new things.
Well, you didn't learn Omaha, and I'm quite disappointed about that.
I'm learning how to pat the ball. I'm learning how to pat the ball.
Tastes like.
Yeah. So my question is, and
I'm also learning ball security, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah. So we're gonna do this a different way because I finally have what I wanted. Are you guys really concerned with the Bradbury release? And with the way this defensive backfield, not even just corners, but safeties as well, are you concerned how that's going to be this year with the Don Martindale scheme, or are you not? Now, while you think about your answers, I finally have my clip. This is Luca's campaign video on Josh McCown being a so-called Pro Bowler. Also, we'll go over the fact that Luca has a horrible jersey history because it's pretty bad. Also, for the fact that he thought that Josh McCown should have been a Pro Bowler in 2017.
He should have been considered. Should have been considered.
Look, are you also? We're all Yankee fans here.
Yeah, we are.
We're all Yankee fans because sometimes
we're all Yankee fans.
Because sometimes the Jets and the Mets, I can see where the delusion comes in. if Josh McCown should have been a Pro Bowler in 2017, what did that make Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015 an All-Pro?
I mean.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, Fitzpatrick did break a franchise record for Jets passing touchdowns.
That's not hard.
That's so
to accomplish.
Upsetting. I never knew that.
They haven't had a franchise quarterback since They haven't had a quarterback since Namath.
Literally,
Literally have not had a franchise quarterback since Namath.
They say you learn something new every day, but I didn't want to know that. God, Zach Wilson has an opportunity to do that within his first 12 games to break that record.
Yeah, that record was what, 30-something touchdowns. Let me look at Fitzpatrick's stats that year.
It was a crazy year that he had. All right, so in your eyes, and I'm sorry, Lou, I'm picking on you. I love you.
It's all right.
I'm picking on you, but if your logic is that Josh McCown should have gotten at least a Pro Bowl consideration, then Ryan Fitzpatrick should have been at least the second-team All-Pro quarterback in 2015. Are you here for it? You're here for it.
Are you here for it?
For the record, he was an alternate. I'm going to point that out. Now, McCown in 2017 had a Pennington-esque year because realistically, Pennington was probably the last. He was the last good Jets quarterback. I'm gonna retract my statement and say that's not really Pro Bowl numbers, even though he was an alternate. Just gonna leave that out there.
That was traumatizing to watch.
I have two things.
Worst takes in the history of bad takes.
There's two things. One. Old me ate new me. Like, I looked swollen. I looked like I was stung by 10,000 bees. And now I'm skinny. Number two, I never wear polos on shows. I'm thinking tonight, wow, I'm wearing a polo because I was out today and I got lunch with some friends. I was wearing a polo on your show. I never wear polos. Watch any episode of Talking Giants. I usually rarely wear polos, and I was wearing a polo. And that was my main thought from that, along with being funny that took place and the fact that 2015 Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably one of the best seasons a Jets quarterback has ever had. I couldn't believe that.
It's actually quite sad. It is sad. It's sad.
It's insane.
So I have a question on a question.
Yeah.
This will be coming off the video, then I'll let Justin answer the defensive backfield question concerning with the Giants. Did Zach Wilson ever break that record?
No.
He better break it this year. I'm sorry. He has
to, Luka.
What did he have last year? Let's look up Pro Football Reference.
I think he had more interceptions than touchdowns. I think that's an obvious to my head, but I don't know.
Yeah, nine touchdowns, 11 interceptions. How did he finish though? I want to
Even
know how
though
he finished the year.
He had like one interception his last 5 games. Like he started becoming more of a mobile quarterback, and he started rushing for touchdowns more. I think obviously he's got to have more touchdowns than interceptions. That's beyond obvious.
He will. I'm expecting a jump. I'm expecting a considerable jump.
I mean, with the coaching staff, the offense, the talent, it's got to be there. Like, don't give me a 14 touchdown, 13 interception year. Don't give me Sam Darnold year 2. I get that he was under Gase and the offensive line is horrible and all this and that, but just don't give me a freaking marginal year.
I mean, I might have been in the minority. I certainly was. I was not that high on Darnold coming out of the.
Yeah, some people weren't,
draft.
and I get that. I understand.
Because I remember watching game tape and I was writing down, bad accuracy, and and I was just thinking, I don't think he's ready coming out of the draft.
A lot of people said he should have stayed for another year.
Yeah,
I have a
who knows what impact?
Luka?
Yes.
Do you think Zach Wilson is too pretty of a man to succeed in the NFL?
No, I don't.
I do. I think he's way too pretty. I think he's
So
way.
what would you
too
say about Jimmy G then?
And Cliff Kingsbury.
Well, is Jimmy? I mean, Jimmy G. He's succeeding, but is he succeeding? Like, you know what I mean? He can't complete a pass outside the numbers.
No.
So Zach Wilson, here's my take. Non-football take, but it's also a serious take, and I adamantly do believe this. Zach Wilson is too pretty and too attractive of a man to be a successful NFL quarterback. It's my take.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Jared Goff, he's not a very good.
Just don't say Johnny Manziel.
No, I don't think he's pretty. I don't think Johnny Manziel's pretty. I think he's does drugs and stuff. He's kind of a funky dude. He's not pretty. No.
Jared Goff is not a good quarterback either.
No, he's kind of pretty. Yeah. Who else?
I don't really like discussing pretty guys.
What about Mac Jones?
Donald, I get a kick out of it sometimes.
Cliff
what about Mac
Kingsbury
Jones?
Head coach.
Mac Jones, that could, he's got the dad bod. I don't consider that picture of him smoking a cigar with the gut. I don't consider that. I don't consider him to be a pretty boy.
All right, dude. What about you? Oh, that's right, Joe Burrow, but he's already successful.
Joe Burrow. Did you see Joe Burrow after, I think it was the AFC Championship game? His ears and nose looked concerningly red. Where I was like, you're not just Rudolph. Like this, you're taking that to a whole. I was concerned for him. I was like, you need to get that checked out. I need to see if I can find a picture.
No Trubisky?
Like Tom Coughlin in Green Bay level, or
you can say Trubisky is like somewhat of a pretty man, and that is why he is not successful. Absolutely.
I mean, just don't be Brady Quinn either. I'm disgusted with.
He is also a pretty man.
I'm just disgusted by what Brady Quinn said about the Jets.
Also, Cliff Kingsbury as a coach.
Yes. The Cardinals are not a good team. Sorry, they're not, and they need to extend Kyler Murray, because if they don't extend him, then it's really going to show that they're terrible at drafting, and all that they have is just trades and free agent signings.
Yeah.
Got us off the rails.
Joe Namath was a lady killer in his day.
I take responsibility for getting us off the rails on that.
It's all right.
No, you're all
It was an
good.
interesting conversation.
You know, it's funny now that Bookend Tackles brings it up. Luke, remember last season Sam Darnold beat the Jets.
He only beat the Jets because
I'm hearing an
it was
excuse.
Zach Wilson's. It was Zach Wilson's first start, and he had freaking Christian McCaffrey. All 3 games he beat freaking bad teams. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. But look what he did the rest of the season. I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying facts. Like Darnold was, That's what he was. That's what he was.
You know, it's funny to me. Before we attempt to get back on the rails, me and Luca were actually having an argument today, and I happened to at 2 people on Twitter, Donald and Snacks, because there was that much of an argument. So now
You can relate this to Justin.
Snacks?
Snacks isn't snacks. So I don't know how we got to this conversation. Actually, I was thinking about it because this song was playing in. We were at a pool place in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, the other night, and this song was playing. And I told Luca where it's from, and then we started.
I knew it was from automatically. I knew where it was from.
Well, I was telling you at the point. Now, for some reason, we got into the conversation of because I feel like Eli, whenever he's on a commercial or something, he's always a kindred spirit. He's like he always makes you smile. Like whenever the Giants have like an ad for something. You know, the Super Bowl commercial, which is the conversation we had. So I added Donald, I added Snacks. I said, which is the better Super Bowl commercial? Is it the Sopranos one or is it the Eli one? And then with this one coming into the conversation, I went at Luca because he was criticizing Eli Manning. I'm like, dude, all Joe Namath does fucking Medicare, okay? I am Joe Namath's Medicare.
Okay, that's not a Super Bowl commercial though.
This is still commercial.
How can you come? You know what? Let Justin answer.
So are we gonna vote? Like obviously you know my vote. I voted Sopranos as much as Eli Manning is my hero and my god, and I love him so much. But I went Sopranos advert.
What did Snacks say?
He said Sopranos.
Wow.
He said he would blow Eli out of the water.
That Sopranos commercial was so cool.
It was so cool.
It was
all time.
Let's point the finger at at Alex. Alex, I can't really point, the camera and stuff. Let's point at Alex. He's never watched an episode of The Sopranos. I'm very disappointed.
I've seen clips. I haven't seen full
clips. That is absolutely unacceptable.
He's disgusting, Donald.
Now that I am a member of this pod, I now make it a point of emphasis that you now need to start watching that show.
Spend the summer doing it. I don't care. And then you watch. Then if you want, you could watch The Many Saints of Newark, which was very disappointing, as Justin alluded to in one of his video clips. That was a week 4, I think, against the Saints. Like he's like, I don't know what's been more disappointing, this or The Many Saints of Newark. And then he did
watch the first episode, season 1, episode 1 of The Sopranos, and you will be hooked. It is that good.
So let me get this straight. 2 things have to happen, I guess, after I finish The Sopranos. We have to have Snacks on A, and B, I have to do a book report on it.
Book report.
Is that what Snacks said?
Report here.
I'm just making it up.
This isn't 6th grade, Alex.
How are you going to do a book report on a TV show?
It can happen.
You don't call that a book report then. It's not a book.
Okay, a TV summary.
We can do a summary.
Reflection. How about that?
We can do a reflection of The Sopranos on the pod. There we go. Monday night.
We'll commit it. We'll commit it to all Sopranos.
There we go.
Yes. Donald got into his
and
own
Justin,
head
you didn't. I'm guessing you obviously said it was disappointing. You must have really not liked the Sopranos movie because I didn't. I thought it was overrated massively.
Haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. I'm a big fan, but I didn't watch it because it doesn't have
I went in. A lot of people have mixed opinions, and I went in with an open belief. I'm like, oh my god, what is this? Like, I don't know. Again, you guys need to go in with an open mind.
Obviously, it doesn't have my dude James Gandolfini in it, so I opted out of it.
What was I going to say? Before we get back on the rails, I have another question for Justin. Yes. What was that celebrity death draft? I never got into it with Snacks because he had to leave. But what was that about?
On Simple Man Radio?
Yes.
Yeah, so on Simple Man Radio, what we did is we drafted celebrities who we think are going to unfortunately pass away in the year 2022. When Simple Man Radio, we're gonna bring it back. We kind of got off the rails with the draft and everything, but when Simple Man Radio was happening over the offseason, the first like 5 weeks of the show's existence, there was every single week like a major celebrity died. It was like Betty White, Bob Saget. There was like a string of celebrity deaths where we were like, is this show cursed? So then it led us to have everybody loves a good draft, right? So we drafted celebrities who we think are going to pass away, and we all put $5 in the pool. Whoever, what am I trying to say? Whoever gets whichever celebrity right will get $15 from the rest of the 3 other co-hosts. So it's Danny King, myself, Bobby Skinner, and Nikki Snacks. So my first pick was the Queen of England.
I'm on board with that.
Okay. Yeah, and Danny King, wild pick, drafted Dave Portnoy. Do you remember?
Portnoy.
Do you remember when Dave Portnoy was like was around gunfire at like a Justin Bieber after party? That happened this year. That happened this year. Danny King almost won the death draft by drafting Dave Portnoy, which if he did that, I would have had to open an FBI investigation because that is it's too bizarre. So yes, we did do that on Simple Man Radio. Simple Man Radio is like the show that we want to keep secret, but we don't.
Yeah,
we're gonna get canceled. We're gonna
it's
get canceled.
Controversial topic, but
we're gonna get canceled one day.
Just like when Jonathan Allen had those 3 people you would sit it with if you dead.
We also did a draft on that. We did a draft of people who are dead that we would want to have dinner with. So my picks were Snacks' Soul. That was my first pick. Because Snacks' Soul has been dead for a very, very long time. And then I drafted Muhammad Ali. And who was my third one? I forget who my third one was, but it was fun. But the Snacks' Soul was my first pick.
I know one of them for me would definitely be George Carlin.
Oh, you would want to learn how to take over things and just strategize military-wise?
Well, he's just a funny guy.
He's a funny guy? He was kind of an intense guy, wasn't he?
He was intensely hilarious.
Oh, wait. Why am I getting George Carlin?
George Carlin, the comedian.
I am thinking of George Patton.
Oh, my God.
General George Patton. That would be a laugh a minute.
I literally why do you want to have dinner with General Patton? That's what I thought you were saying. Okay, yeah. So Simple Man Radio, we're gonna get canceled one day. That's kind of.
I'd have dinner with Richard Pryor.
I was just about to say
that would be freaking wild. Obviously, he'd be taking a lot of trips to the bathroom cubicle to snort up or whatever. Not taking part in that, but the fun that he'd have when he come back will be just epic. That would be an all-time restaurant visit.
That would be an interesting one. Back to football.
Joe DiMaggio. I would love to have dinner with Joe DiMaggio. That would be fun.
He'd be classic.
Yeah, he'd have all kinds of techniques with picking up ladies, and he'd tell me all about how being one of the greatest hitters of all time. That's perfect.
Yeah, he did have what was it, 56 games streak of hitting?
Hitting streak, yeah.
And he dated Marilyn Monroe, so I got to ask him questions about that.
Wow.
Apparently, she said what was like 60 years ago that the sex was great. So I mean,
well, there you go. You see, Alex knows.
You already found out.
You already had that conversation.
You already chatted with me.
I have sources.
Sources.
But back to the question on the defensive backfield. Are you
Yes.
guys at all concerned with it this year, especially the way Martindale works? Justin?
I'm worried. And it's not just because of Bradbury, but I'm also worried they shouldn't have cut Logan Ryan. I'm sorry. They really shouldn't have. For no financial benefit. I don't really understand the whole, he was Joe Judge's guy, Well, yeah. Is cutting him really gonna be worth it because he's Joe Judge's guy when you have Dane Belton and Yusuf Corker allowing 40, 50-yard plays this year? Because there's gonna be a point where they're gonna play. I mean, there's somebody that's gonna be in the secondary that's gonna be extremely young. And Logan Ryan, whether it could have been he could have transitioned back out to corner, and yeah, he would have allowed some big plays because he's not a great corner and he's not a great safety, but he's better than rookies. He's better than 4th-round rookies, and he's better than undrafted free agents. So that is a move that I really, really adamantly disagreed with. It's probably the move that I dislike the most from Joe Shane so far. And that fact that Wink Martindale is reliant on his secondary players to hold up in the back end so his pass rush can get home. That is something that not a lot of people are talking about, that Wink Martindale does rely on those back end players to give the pass rush time to get home. And if they're allowing big plays back there, like the Ravens secondary allowed big plays last year, they were the team in the National Football League that allowed explosive pass plays at the second highest rate last year. If that kind of thing happens again, then it's going to be a long year for the Giants defense, but they do have a favorable schedule.
Good point. Against quarterbacks that are not necessarily the greatest.
No. And I actually put out a graphic today. Here's a little tip and content. If you feel like you put out a really good graphic and it doesn't get a lot of attention, just put it out in a couple months and people will forget about it. So, so I made a graphic today of the Giants' 22 opponents, their average DVOA ranking, which is defense value over average. It's basically an efficiency metric. The overall average of the opponents that they're facing is 17.3. The average explosive play ranking of their 22 opponents from the 2021 season is around the same, 17.35. The games versus teams in the bottom 12 of explosive pass play ranking, 8. The Giants have 8 games this year where they're playing teams in the bottom 12 of the National Football League from 2021 in explosive pass play rate. So, and there's 7 games versus teams in the top 12. One of them being the Seahawks, but the Seahawks don't have Russell Wilson anymore. So the schedule could very much help the Giants this year in terms of playing quarterbacks that aren't explosive and quarterbacks that aren't going to kind of drive the ball down the field, so that if the Giants secondary is bad or is a little bit, not up to par, that hopefully they will be not good, but hopefully they'll be like okay.
Donald?
Logan Ryan would have made more sense as a post-June cut after the draft if because I assumed that they were going to prioritize safety and especially corner in the draft more than they actually did. I don't think Flott is necessarily the answer. I mean, he's more of an undersized slot guy.
Yeah, not this year. He's not. No.
So that was the only criticism I actually had was the lack of emphasis at defensive back in the draft. I think there was a couple of times in that draft, especially we assumed in the second round that we would have gone ourselves a corner because I'm really worried about it, especially with Bradbury being cut. Logan Ryan, it was weird because when they cut him at the time, I believe it only saved them around about $775 or something around that range. It would have saved them $2 million plus had they cut him in the post-June. But I do believe that it actually helped them going into next year. I think it was like it'll help $2 million going into 23.
When you already have like 80 million or close to 100 million in cap space, is saving an extra 3 million next year really like the biggest deal in the world? I mean, the Giants, and I hear what you're saying, but the Giants just kind of need bodies.
That's why I would have
the secondary stuff.
That's why I would have waited till after the draft. Had they attacked safety and gotten a guy that you could rely on that's going to be a possible starter in the draft, then I would possibly have understood it. Or had they gotten an outside corner that's perfect in man coverage, then fine. Then I maybe understand it. I didn't necessarily understand it when we did it at the time. That when I said my pod, Nerding Out Sports, was I thought it was possibly like a nudge, wink, wink. Like if we like as a gesture of goodwill for you being a captain and being such a good guy, we'll get you out in the free agent market early so you can find a good situation for yourself, considering we're not really going anywhere this year. That's maybe what I was thinking. because it didn't make a lot of financial sense. It really didn't.
No, not made zero. I think they lost money.
Right. So the only time it would have made financial sense was actually a post-June cut, if anything at all. So
yeah,
I didn't hate. I hated the timing of it because I actually really like Logan Ryan. But I kind of understood cutting him, but not when they did it. That didn't make a lot of sense because we kind of left a hole just for the sake of. It's like cutting off your nose and spite your face. Kind of what they did, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But I can see what they were thinking. They want to go younger, so maybe they want to go Julian Love. I can see him maybe being the other safety now, but we don't really have a lot of depth outside of that. So that's very, very strange. And I'm mostly worried about corner. Could they not have sorted out the Bradbury thing earlier? Like, I know that Shane waited and hopefully got a trade tied up for him, but I mean, was there not trade opportunities at the start of?
I think there was, but I think I don't necessarily know why, but Bradbury needed to agree to some sort of contract or some sort of deal with the new team that he would be comfortable with, and he would be comfortable with the situation. So I think that was ultimately part of it, where there were offers, and I think the Giants were ready to pull the trigger. But I think what it came down to was Bradbury not being happy with any of those alternatives, and that's why they had to cut him. So,
but the thing was, Bradbury's actually openly unhappy with the way that the Giants treated him by cutting him so late,
right?
Because you retweeted something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can. If I were him, I wouldn't be happy with the way it happened either. Because at the end of the day, being cut after free agency and after the draft, I mean, that sucks. So
yeah.
That sucks. So I can. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Kind of situation with Bradbury. So I don't really care about kind of how he felt there, because that was just business and it just didn't work out. It sucks for him that it happened.
No, I'm just picking up on the fact that you were saying that maybe there was a trade possibility, but you kind of turned it down to find a better situation.
Yeah.
But he got the situation he wants because now he's in Philadelphia and I'm sure he's going to be happy there.
Yeah.
But he's still pissed off the Giants anyway. So it's a little strange. I would have just done it earlier, as soon as possible, and that would have maybe heightened the need to them attack corner, which they needed to do anyway in the draft.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive Flott fan. I don't know what you think of Flott. Could you maybe fill me in on what to be looking forward to with him?
Yeah, Flott has that frame that he can kind of grow into to get a little bit bigger to maybe become an outside corner. Okay. I do think he's kind of pigeonholed in the slot, at least for this year. Aaron Robinson has already been taking those outside boundary corner snaps at OTAs. But Cordell Flott he's a fun player. He's a physical player. Just because he's on the lighter side doesn't mean he doesn't want to get his nose in there and stick his nose in there to get dirty. Okay. He has man coverage traits where he can be physical. He can make plays on the football. He did make a lot of good plays on the opposite side of Derek Stingley, where everybody was talking about Stingley. But there were some people that really watched LSU who loved his competitiveness, and who loved his ability, like I said, to make plays on the football, especially in man coverage. Doesn't have the most press man corner snaps, but he has a lot of man coverage snaps, and that's what the Giants are looking for. And he's like long on film, but he's not long like measurement wise. Now his arms are longer than 30 inches, which if your arms are longer than 30 inches, like cool. I think you have a shot to really succeed in the NFL versus if your arms are shorter than 30 inches, you see that's almost like the cutoff point for good corners in the NFL and then like bad corners. Good boundary outside corners. Their arms are longer than 30 inches, like more times than not. And then corners that are bad, their arms are not 30 inches. It's crazy how that's like the cutoff. But still, even though Flott, like they're around 30 inches, he looks longer. Like he kind of just has that like lanky kind of frame, and he can add some more muscle to it. So I'm excited about Cordell Flott. Okay. I'm excited to see how he could develop. And I want to pump the brakes on him like playing the slot at full time, but I kind of think I might feel better about him than Darnay Holmes in a heavy man coverage scheme. So slot this year, let's look to move to the outside and compete with whoever we got in the future out there.
Do you think there's anyone in free agency that could fill a role for us to attack at some point?
I hope so. There are some veteran corners out there that I think that's the last cherry on top that's needed this offseason is they have to bring in a veteran corner because there are too many guys like Darnay Holmes outside of Adoree Jackson. Darnay Holmes is the only player in the secondary besides Kennedy, the guy that they just signed from Kennedy. Kennedy. Thank you. Besides the guy that they signed, I think he was from Baltimore. So besides him, only Darnay Holmes has played more than 50% of the defensive snaps in a given season. This is an extremely young secondary. And they have talent, they have promise, but they just don't have experience. Like they just haven't played a full NFL season, let alone half an NFL season. So
I do think Aaron Robinson flies under the radar.
I love him. I really do. I love him.
Really good. Yeah.
Shouts to Miz in the chat. Jeffrey, yes, we did see all the stuff regarding Haskins, and this is another concern. Adoree Jackson's not going to stay healthy for all 17 games. No. So if they don't get a corner, you're possibly looking at Aaron Robinson and
Rodarius Williams.
Rodarius, who didn't do what was his thing like last year? Like wasn't he good in man before like the injury to ACL or?
Yeah, that's when he was drafted. It's funny. I mean, Patrick Graham kind of wanted to run a little bit more like a Wink Martindale defense last year, but the pass rush just didn't get home, so he had to resort back to zone coverage. So they drafted Aaron Robinson, who's a man coverage heavy corner, and then they drafted Rodarius, I believe, in like the 5th round, who is a man coverage heavy corner. And Rodarius did really, really well in training camp, killed it. Struggled heavily in the preseason games. And then got out there in the regular season, and he looked decent. So, coming off the torn ACL, and he's also like 27. He's old. He's a very, very old.
He's older than his brother, Greedy.
Yeah, he is. He's 20. I think he's 27. I actually want to look this up.
Yeah.
You owe me $1 if I'm right.
What's up, everyone? Justin Penik rules.
He's 25. You don't owe me $1. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be fair. He's going to be 26 at the start of the season, so I was only 1 year off. He's an old second-year player.
It's interesting to say the least. Also, like Jermaine Johnson, I know he's old for being. It's like 23, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's just that's the status of this year's draft, and you may see it next year, and then after next year, it may even out a little bit more because of the whole COVID opt-out year.
Yeah, you get that extra year.
Yeah, the extra year of eligibility. So you literally saw a range of players from like 20. Like Cordell Flott's 20. And then there are players like Velus Jones Jr., who's like 25. Like, and they were all rookies that like entered the draft this year. And you saw that Joe Shane, why a lot of Giants fans didn't know like who these guys are and why they drafted guys that were like off the consensus boards is because all these guys that they drafted, they were young and they didn't have like all these years of experience like Leo Chanel's did, or like a lot of the top guys did, where they had all these years of experience and they're 23, 24 years old. Joe Shane just didn't do that. Like he just drafted guys that were 20, 21, 22. He drafted guys that were young, and that was like a theme of this draft class.
Bookend says, I thought Robinson played well last year. A few snaps he played. Yeah, the first real game I was there, Eagle game, and he made a very good impression on me, being very physical. That's what I love. That's what I love about Aaron Robinson.
Yeah.
And obviously, he struggled at times, and obviously at certain points he played well, but he played very well last year. Just overall, at least for a 3rd round rookie expectation, and someone who was out for the first 7-8 weeks.
Yeah, he somehow snuck in. Aaron Robinson somehow snuck in. I was looking at his Pro Football Reference because that's just what I do. When I get bored, I just like spending my time on Pro Football Reference. He somehow snuck in 43% of the defensive snaps last year. Isn't that crazy?
It's interesting.
He played in 9 games. He played in 9 games, and he somehow snuck in 43%. I did not know that because it felt like he missed more of the year that more time than he played in, which that's actually good for him. Because if it feels like Aaron Robinson didn't play in a lot of games, but he actually did, that means his name wasn't called all that often, and that means he wasn't getting targeted, and that's a good thing for a corner.
Oh, my God. Sorry to interrupt. Baltimore are 6-4 up on the Yankees?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Garrett Cole got through 7, which was good. He allowed 5 runs.
He actually got through 8, I think.
He got through 8?
They
Cool.
let him out for
Good.
the 8th inning.
All right. 110 pitches through 8.
Helps the bullpen.
They probably don't want to rely on that bullpen after all the injuries, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, fine. I mean, if you're going to lose a game, then just throw him until he can't anymore.
God, no one else
Our
is
corners
healthy.
will be just fine.
Okay.
Gettleman went and got it fucking shine box. I guess got his fucking shine box, probably going back to Goodfellas reference. Miz, you could ask that question, but while Miz props his question up, I do have 2 final questions. In your opinion, Justin, obviously you brought up Yusuf Corker as a name. Which UDFAs could you see possibly bringing, which UDFAs could really have an impact on this team this year?
Yeah, I think Chris Hinton from Michigan could make the team. Now, are we going to say make an impact, or are we going to say make the team?
Make an impact for an undrafted free agent.
Make an impact for an undrafted free agent.
For their standards.
Okay. So, I mean, in my brain, like, if you make the team as UDFA, like, that's making an impact.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely.
I'll go with that. So I think Yusuf Corker is going to make the team, and I think he's going to also be a valuable special teamer as well. He's also good in the box. So here, I'll go with Yusuf Corker first. I think Yusuf Corker can be like this in the box safety. I think he's another guy that maybe needs to add a little bit of bulk to the frame. Like, hey, like, Jabril Peppers was kind of like he's kind of a big dude. Like, put some more muscle on the frame. And, Peppers is like more than a fine NFL player, and he is in the majority, like, in the box safety. And there's roles for those guys. Hey, are those guys getting $10 million a year? No, but there's roles for those guys, and Yusuf Corker can certainly fill it. And if that's what we get from a UDFA, I love that. So that's like I said, Chris Hinton as well. He's from Michigan. He's an interior defensive lineman. I think I kind of like him better than DJ Davidson, who we drafted in the fifth, sixth round of this year. DJ Davidson was like my least favorite draft pick from this year, and I think Hinton's actually kind of better than him. I like the running back out of Miami, out of Florida State.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
What's his name? Alex, you're like
Sean
a whiz
Corbin.
with this. Corbin, thank you so much.
Josh Corbin, yeah.
He's gonna be duking it out with Antonio Williams to be that RB3. Gary Brightwell is not on this team, in my opinion. He stinks. Sorry if you're Gary Brightwell staying out there, but yeah. So it's gonna be Corbin and Antonio Williams really duking it out for that RB3 spot. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Any other UDFA wide receivers I like? Bobby likes there's a wide receiver from Maine
And
that he likes.
Miller.
Andre Miller, thank you. See, Alex, this is why you're just the man.
What about the 2 edges, Ryder Anderson and Timon Fox?
Yes. Timon Fox, I like. Timon Fox, I like. I think he actually has he has some pop to his game. I like the bend. He has like sneaky good bend, little sneaky good athleticism. You don't see guys like that, like from a UDFA pool, and that's why this draft was just so unique, because you can get a guy like Timon Fox from the UDFA pool, being like, how is this guy just not drafted? But there's just so many names that are out there that guys just fall into the cracks. I don't know if he's going to make the team, because the Giants edge rusher room is one of those rooms where it's like, yeah, are any of them besides Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, are any of them good? No, but there's just a lot of you there. So I don't think I would love Timon Fox to kind of make the practice squad and be here. And if there's ever a situation where somebody gets hurt, boom, he gets called up and he's ready to rock and roll. Ryder Anderson, I think, needs to transition to the inside. I think he needs to transition to an interior defensive lineman. He's long. He needs to act more like a power rusher, not a speed rusher, because I think he has that power, but he tries to have all these speed rusher moves, and it's like, dude, you're just not that athletic. So that's my thoughts on those 2 guys.
And Austin Allen, do you think he makes a roster at all? Do you think he makes a roster at all? Because I know you guys aren't very high on Akins and Seals-Jones as blockers.
No. I mean, it's not even that we're not high on them. It's just that I don't even think that they can really do it.
No.
No, it's not even it's not really a knock against them. That's just not part of their game, and that's why Daniel Bellinger, he may get more snaps than what he's actually ready for, because he can block, and there's no other tight end on this roster that can block besides UDFA Austin Allen. So I'm rooting for Austin Allen to be tight end 3. I'm rooting for him to be good enough because I do think that is best case scenario for the Giants, is not to have like your backup tight ends be 2 receiving options, but get Austin Allen there, get 2 tight ends on the roster that can somewhat block for you. Obviously, you're going to need to develop these rookies, but if Austin Allen can earn it, I think he should be tight end 3 and he should make the team. But don't just you can't just give it to him. I think if they cut Austin Allen, he's going to get picked up by another team. So.
And Miz's question, does Barkley rise? And I think he might be I think he's asking about Daniel Jones too. Do Barkley and Jones rise or fall with the new offensive line?
They're going to rise. It's just a matter of how much.
What point?
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to get worse. And I know we said that after 2020, and it did get worse, but they're not going to get worse.
It's not physically possible.
No, it's actually not. Like 2020, I guess, yeah, it was possible, but it's actually not possible after this year. And even with Jones was not. There was a point in 2021 where Jones was better than he was in 2020. So we forget that point too, because I feel like we're also clouded by Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. Like Daniel Jones was having a better season in 2021 than he did in 2020, and that's nothing to write home about at all. But they are going to get better. And what actually is really fun, we talked about this towards the end of the Dan Schneider interview. Brian Daboll likes to spread out the field. He was a team that ran like the top 3, top 4 most 10 personnel, which is 4 wide receivers and 1 running back in the entire National Football League last year. The Giants in 2020 and 2021 ran like 13 personnel, which is one running back, 3 tight ends. They ran that like the most in the National Football League the last 2 years. I don't know about you. I get a lot more excited when I have more wide receivers on the field versus blocking tight ends.
Of course.
So, and there's actually is data that shows from Daniel Jones's 2019 season, Saquon Barkley's 2019 season, and 2018 season as well for Barkley. Barkley does a lot better when he's running out of the shotgun. Daniel Jones does a lot better when he's passing out of the shotgun. And Daniel Jones is a lot better when he's utilizing those RPOs, which Brian Daboll ran that a shit ton with Josh Allen. So a lot of the things that statistically Daniel Jones did well in 2019, Saquon Barkley did well in 2018, 2019, Brian Daboll already did at Buffalo. He doesn't even need to integrate it. So the biggest thing with those guys is, this is with both Jones and Barkley, but especially Barkley, not putting so many guys in the box. Not having teams blitz us so heavily, because then that means that Daniel Jones is being pressured more. Daniel Jones passes a lot better from a clean pocket. Saquon Barkley rushes a lot better when there's less guys in the box and he has more time and he has more space to digest what's going on around him. So all of those things kind of are going to equate, I think, into a better season for both of those guys, because Daboll kind of has already adapted, spreading out the field, getting less guys in the box, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, is Brandon Jacobs still trying to be an edge? The Tim Tebow experiment has failed, so that's probably a no.
I'm still for it, by the way.
It is possible, it's not ruling it out.
They need to use Saquon more in the pass game, man, because he's got great hands, and he's got the kind of offensive game where you need him in a position where he's attacking the opposition secondary, because he's fast and elusive. It's when you're using him as kind of a guy where he's gonna just plow through, get the dirty yards. He's not that type of guy, man. He dances too much. He's hesitant. Sorry, what?
I hate to interrupt, Donald, but that was one of the things that pissed me off so much last year. Yeah. They kept using him up the middle. That's not the type of guy he is.
No, if you want somebody like that, then you need to move on, because he's not that type of guy. I do have issues with Saquon's running style. It makes me wonder whether he's really a 3-down back. I don't think he is, but he will get better this year. It's impossible for him not to, but they need to accentuate his gifts. He's incredibly athletic and fast and strong. It's just, you need to get him in positions where he's gonna help you, and that's use the passing game or just find different ways in which for him to accentuate his gifts, because just having him plow up the middle and get those dirty yards. Now, Shermer did a better job with him, because he did help him with that, and he was actually pretty good with Saquon Barkley. It's a problem because I really felt that Saquon was I think part of it was mental. I think that he was afraid to get himself hurt again. He just came but rehab from a serious injury, and I do feel that certainly in the first half of the year he was afraid to plow into those big linemen and possibly get himself hurt again. So you could just see that he was really hesitant, and he kind of pitter-pattered around the edge of the line, and you can't do that, man.
Yeah.
So, at the moment, I mean, I just don't see any scenario where we re-sign him. I just can't imagine it because he won't get paid. And I don't see how we'd put the cap, we'll get ourselves out of that horrible cap position that we're in.
Yeah.
Do we put ourselves back in with a running back where you can't trust he's going to be healthy? But I do want him to be healthy. I do love him as a player and an athlete. But I just think that this year's going to be very odd because I don't believe that our future running back and our future quarterback is going to be in the backfield much longer other than next year. I just think that we'll probably be moving on in both regards, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to a different topic, but I would, of course, like to let Justin go for the night. He obviously spent an hour and 50 minutes with us. Obviously, if you don't know Justin, I'm pretty sure all y'all do. But anyway, all the stuff is in the description. Final thoughts, Justin. And I personally, I don't know if Donald saw, but I love Snacks' trolling of the Yankee fans this weekend.
Oh my gosh. Did you see? I needed to take pride for a hot sec that I work for John Boy Media. So did you see that picture that I posted of he was in the office because we recorded Bleeding Blue this weekend. So I put my hand on his shoulder in front of the John Boy Media logo and I said, "Disgrace and menace to Yankees Twitter." Snacks BDGE finds himself in the office that's known for Yankee fans and stuff like that. So I needed to just show off that hey, Snacks is part of what we do and he's a good guy. So he's wonderful and he's been having a lot of fun with people hating him, which that's such a crazy concept. Like people got so mad because he said he was gonna boo players. He didn't say he was gonna. He didn't say they stink. He didn't say anything like. I mean, I guess he did say that they stink. He didn't say anything like personally offending them. He just said, "I'm going to boo them," and people lost their shit, and it was kind of funny.
I think you got to know who Snacks is personally to get a feel for who he.
I must have replied that about 15 times.
Anyway, but guys, it's always a pleasure to come on. I'm glad I was able to finally come on after, like I said, I was unintentionally kind of avoiding you guys for the last couple weeks. So I'm glad that we were able to hop on. We'll definitely hop on. Training camp is my favorite time of the year, so I can imagine once football starts getting heated up again, we'll talk about that, and I'll be even more fired up about this team that we got. So, fellas, I appreciate you. Have a good rest of the show.
Peace, Justin.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Justin, man.
All right. So, with that being said, I am going to adjust here. Hold on. I have it somewhere. Or maybe I don't, but I'm adjusting the background, of course. Luca, what do you say the next topic shall be? Should it be the NBA playoffs or should it be the?
I think we go into the Yankees baseball. They just lost 6-4 to the Orioles.
That's bad, man.
Cole struck out 11 but allowed 5 runs. So
that's not what you want out of your ace.
Nope.
And Judge hit 2 home runs. The Yankees offense is basically Aaron Judge right now.
It's just Judge or Stanton. That's it.
I mean, it's embarrassing is what it is. I mean, Luke, if you want to go over any of the pinpoints that we have in those notes.
Well, so about a week ago or two, the Yankees were reportedly interested in Frankie Montas, other teams as well. Joey Gallo. What'd you say, Alex?
I didn't hear that, but that's interesting.
Yes. Joey Gallo hit the COVID IL. Is the Yankees' need for a left or center fielder becoming more imminent? I say it is because Aaron Hicks is garbage and Joey Gallo is, we all know who he is. I love Benintendi for the Yankees at the deadline. What do you think, Donald?
That was the name I was exactly going to say, man. We're in the same wavelength, Ben. Good minds thinking like Benintendi, man. He's perfect. Bats 300. He'll buy his pop. He likes Yankee Stadium.
He's got a good arm.
He's got a good arm. He's kind of a perfect outfielder for what we need.
And he's played in somewhat of a big market too. Yes, Jeffrey, I am watching the Celtics game. Joe from NYU News TV, we were actually doing the game season live, and he's like, you know what? If you add Benintendi to this lineup, you can make a Jeter-Damon tandem like 09. You have LeMahieu first, then you have Benintendi second, 2 contact hitters with a little bit of pop.
I think Aaron Boone dreams of having LeMahieu actually in the middle of the order. I think that was his original intention. It's just because it's not worked out that way because we don't really have any proper leadoff guys. So you could maybe even have, because I think he really likes Aaron Judge in the 2 hole. I think he really likes having Judge 2 and Rizzo 3 and then Stanton 4. So you can maybe have Benintendi even leading off. He bats over 300. That's certainly a scenario you could envisage, or you could have LeMahieu leading off, and then you can have Benintendi as protection for Stanton, because I don't think we've got enough protection for Giancarlo Stanton. Because if you're an opposition pitcher, you've got Stanton up. You look at everyone else after him. Torres. I quite like Torres. He's great clutch, but he's not the same player as he was.
Right.
And then after him, Gallo sucks. Aaron Hicks can hit the side of a glass barn. Could hit water if he fell out of a freaking boat. And then after Aaron Hicks, then you got Falafel, and then you got Trevino, and then so it's kind of like an automatic out situation. So if I were the opposition, I'd be like, well, I'm just going to pitch around Stanton, and I'm just going to be quite happy to attack what the rest of the order is. That's smart. So I think the Yankees do need to get some protection for Stanton. So whether that's putting Benintendi lead off or 5, or LeMahieu lead off for 5, doesn't matter. They need some proper protection for Stanton.
Yeah,
I agree.
So then moving on to the next point, bullpen's becoming a bit of a concern for us. Chad Green's out with he's going to have Tommy John surgery. Chapman is likely going on the IL with Achilles. Jonathan Loaisiga just has been the same as sampled by yesterday's game. Alex, who do you think should start filling roles?
Wandy Peralta, I don't know how he pitched tonight.
He gave up a run.
Okay, so maybe my opinion has changed a little bit. I don't know. But you have to think Wandy has to fill a role.
He's been non-existent over the past
couple. Clay Holmes has to be the closer moving forward. You just cannot experience with Chapman. And then he had. I think he said he had the Achilles injury for a while. This is the thing with Chapman. Why doesn't he tell anybody? This is not the first time it's happened. You're not going to – the problem with Green was also as well as a hot and cold player. You don't know what you're going to get. So it's tough for me to even put faith in Loaisiga because they haven't put him in a significant – they haven't put him in a signified role. What is he going to do?
And he was terrible yesterday on Sunday Night Baseball.
He was
horrible. Missing
location.
location.
He gave up 2 runs. And listen, the offense should definitely be better. There's no question about that. This game, it seems like, of course, it was entirely on Aaron Judge. And then that one single, I think, was from Trevino, you said. But it's going to get – this is really where the adversity comes in because Luis Hill, you would consider it an option. He's having Tommy John surgery. Steven Ridings is hurt. Ron
JP Sears is starting Wednesday.
I'm scared for that, honestly. I don't care who it's against. I'm scared. Ron Marinaccio, is he the bullpen pitcher? He couldn't get outs against Baltimore and Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Is he the pitcher you really want to be filling a significant role in? So I think the Yankees have a lot of decision-making to do. But is it going to be the right decisions, though? I'll go with Donald.
Yeah, this is an issue now. Chad Green obviously is not exactly been the most reliable. However, Aaron Boone has trusted him, right? And you trust him in high leverage spots. You take out someone who you trust in a high leverage spot, and then you have to think elsewhere. So let's look at the options. We go Litke, he was good last year. He's not been good this year. Loaisiga, I was wrong, man. I thought he was our future closer.
He's a mess right now. He's broken. He needs work. Loizaga. I don't know what's going on with him because the stuff is there, but he's not finishing his pitches and he's not locating his pitches like he was. So very concerned because he'd be the automatic choice. So then you go deeper. Then you mentioned Marinaccio. He doesn't look like he's ready right now. Then you go even further into it, and Wandy Peralta has actually been pitched pretty decent this year. I don't think he's exactly trusted to pitch high leverage spots though. So then you're going to think Clark Schmidt, but then Clark Schmidt, I want him as a future starter.
What about Miguel Castro?
Castro started off great. He's kind of tailed off lately in his last couple of outings, but he's certainly someone that you're going to have to use quite a lot. It's all about Mike King and all about Holmes. Clay Holmes and Mike King. I think there will be the guys that are going to be used heavily. And that leads us to Chapman. The biggest problem is Chapman because he's the one that screwed up this entire bullpen, not necessarily Chad Green. You can find someone that can pitch in middle innings. Chapman is someone that you cannot trust to close games. Not anymore. He's shown over the last few years that by mid-season, he completely falls apart, and it's usually for an entire month, right? And they've had to work around that for the last couple of years. And now, for some reason, they're like, oh, we're just going to write it out, and hopefully it'll work itself out again this year. And he's blown it right from day one, right? He's been terrible. Even though in the times when he was getting out, his fastball was not located. He cannot throw his fastball for strikes right now. As he's overly relying on his secondary pitches, so his slider and his splitter, etc. And eventually, because it's not the greatest pitches, secondary pitches, it's going to get tattooed, and especially when the opposition knows that he can't throw his fastball right now. He's not trusting his fastball. So he's broken. And then we add the fact he's hurt. I didn't like the fact Aaron Boone used him in that last outing. First of all, it was an automatic L. As soon as he came on, you just knew he was going to lose. But the fact that Boone admitted afterwards that he knew that he had a Achilles injury, you can't put him in that scenario. That just does, especially after coming back in the game, forcing a tie game. Why put him in that scenario? I'd rather anyone other than him, man. He can't do it anymore, and he's the one that's really screwed our bullpen up. So I think we're gonna have to mix and match a little bit, and we're gonna have to pick up a reliever, man.
I never thought I'd hear those words, picking up a reliever, but it might have to be true. I just feel like over the last few days, Boone has lost me. Like I was high on Boone.
Yeah, me too.
During that whole winning streak, he's finally got the grip of the ball club. They're finally fighting all this stuff. And we're still a first place team, and I'm not complaining about that. But like some of these micromanaging decisions, like I don't want to go into a slump. And then, obviously him saying what he had about the Donaldson situation.
No, Alex, you didn't understand. You didn't read the full quote. You got tricked by Brian Hoke. So
okay, so you when we get to that, you'll relate to me. But just over the last few days, he has lost me.
I think it's just his moves. I would certainly put game one yesterday on him. I think that was an L. But by and large, 90% of the games he's managed them flawlessly. I don't really have an issue with his in-game management. And up to now, I can certainly question a couple of things recently. But again, he's kind of put in between a rock and a hard place with this Chapman scenario. Because if you overuse Holmes, they've certainly got a rule where they don't like guys pitching 3 days in a row, and that's going to be a problem if they over rely on Holmes, and you're going to have to use Chapman eventually. So it's a difficult scenario for him. So and also, what can Boone really do when like 6 to 9 guys don't hit? 5 out of 9 guys certainly don't hit. So I think the fact that we're in first place with these kind of issues is more of a testament to how good Aaron Boone's managed this year. And I couldn't stand him last year, but I have to say I think he's done a pretty good job this year. I'm pretty impressed with the way he's managed.
Nimmer says that he needs to play better in the fourth quarter. Just updates before we go into whatever's next. Wednesday, we're streaming the Heat game against the Celtics. So if you want to join us, Donald, you're most certainly
Jeffrey, too.
welcome. And then Friday, if we're not doing anything, we're hoping to get a Yankee game in. They versus the Rays on Friday. So
It's a pivotal game.
Pivotal game for the AL East. I mean, I don't know what the standings look like right now, whose game's back, who's not, but Friday is a day we're hoping to stream. I'm trying to get more active this week. I know tomorrow I should have a video out. I know Thursday is dead red, barring everything that's, hopefully me and Sack. It's saw him on
Sox, Arizona. I'll be at a concert that night.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Which concert?
I'm going to see The Who.
Oh, you're going old school.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you got old school sensibilities?
Yep. That's how I am with music.
Nice. Okay, so what kind of bands do you guys like?
The Who, Led Zeppelin, Beatles, like those classics.
Typically fall in the same. Pink Floyd, AC/DC, all that stuff.
Nice.
I know in August I'm going to see Roger Waters.
Ooh.
So that'll be an interesting.
That's good,
one.
man. Well, Who should be interesting.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So, yeah, Friday Thursday's dead red with Sox. Hopefully we can get a consistent schedule going on that. Because I know sometimes we don't want to do it during games. Sometimes we don't. We do, we have to do it when we do it. So we'll keep you guys updated, of course, on that. Luca, if we got anything else to cover on the Yankee spectrum?
Well, we already said the missing pitchers, adversity, bullpen. We going to finally talk about this Donaldson thing?
The elephant in the room.
That's a big elephant.
All right, who should go first?
I'll let Luca go first, then I'll let Donald go first, and then I'll go last.
All right, so we obviously know about the whole Donaldson-Anderson beef thing. We got to address the elephant in the room here. For what I think of it, I don't think a suspension was needed. So let's address it fully. Donaldson called Tim Anderson Jackie, and Jackie is, back in 2019, Tim Anderson referred to himself as Jackie Robinson, because I think the quote was he wanted to break the fun barrier or something like that. Because remember, that was the time where, having fun and hitting homers. Remember like playing for the kids and stuff like that. Like Tim Anderson hit the big home run off the Royals and then they hit him. Like something like that. You guys remember that incident? Yeah, I do. So, he wanted to break the fun barrier. Obviously, we know how pivotal Jackie Robinson was for baseball and just overall history in itself. So, in my opinion, I think comparing yourself to Jackie Robinson is a little bit insulting. Not even just from a player aspect, but a history aspect from what he had to go through. So, yeah, Donaldson called him Jackie, which was, a lot of players do call him that. So Anderson was obviously offended. He said it was ridiculous in the post-game presser, and then one of the reporters asked him, was it racist? He says, yes. Tony La Russa also said it was racist. I don't think it was racist, my opinion. What could have been ridiculous? Yes. Was it a ridiculous comment? Could have been? Yes. I don't think, playing the race card is the right idea. I think it's, the best way to earn people on your side. That's just my opinion. But I don't think Donaldson needed to be suspended. It's kind of ridiculous. But that's my overall thing. I just wasn't happy with the overall suspension. I don't think this whole controversy would have happened if Yasmani Grandal doesn't approach, Donaldson to play. That's just my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, there's that, and I'm going to interrupt for a second, and then I'll go to Donald. I don't know if it happens if Tony La Russa, because he was the first one that said it's racist.
It was La Russa.
So I'll let Donald speak his thoughts, because me and him were having a conversation earlier.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation because I'm taking the tack, the contrarian view where I'm more concerned about Josh Donaldson becoming a distraction to what's been a very positive start to this Yankee year, right? And 100% he is now a distraction because the conversation should not be about Josh Donaldson. It needs to be about the New York Yankees. It needs to be about the team. And the fact that he made a dumb comment, which has sparked something and made national news, and in fact, it made world news, is not a good look. So I just didn't like that from an optics point of view. Now, regarding the comment itself, I'm under the belief that if Anderson is offended, then he has every right to feel that needs to be brought up. I mean, if he's disrespected, then if any of us has been disrespected, then we'll voice it. You know what I mean? And I think he was just voicing it. I don't think that the Yankee fans should necessarily be taking sides, going, "Oh, I'm Josh Donaldson stan, free Josh Donaldson," because then I just think it leads to too many political things and cancel culture things. I don't want to get into any of that stuff. I don't want to get into racism at all. I don't believe it was racist. Personally, don't think it was racist, but I do believe it's disrespectful because I don't think you should be using Jackie Robinson's name in anything other than a positive light. And he was kind of using it as a way to get under his skin, which you don't need to do. You just don't need to go there. You just don't go there, man. And that's the way I view it. I'm more concerned about it being a distraction than anything. I think that Tony La Russa is the one that opened the can of worms. He was the one that said this was a racist thing. Anderson, he said it was disrespectful, and I do agree with him. I think it was disrespectful. He never necessarily mentioned race right from the start. It was La Russa that brought that up. And then he kind of, remember when he was interviewed yesterday during the telecast, and then he was mentioning how the fans were booing him and things like that. And then he was like, again, it's racist. There's racism going on here. And La Russa was the one that's kind of stirring the pot, in my opinion. I don't think he needed to do that. Anderson had every right to voice his opinion because it's not for me to judge how he should be taking something a certain way. I don't think he was actually comparing himself to Jackie Robinson. I think he's trying just to say that he's trying to bring an element of what Jackie Robinson brought back to the game, that fun aspect. I don't think he's directly saying that he is that type of player or he is that player. But to the end of the day, the only person who was disrespectful was actually Jackie Robinson. Why are they even bringing him up in any other way other than a positive light? He's a shining light. He's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And it's really important that there's more African Americans that are involved in baseball going forward. It's not as represented as it used to be. And I just don't like a racist subtext that might affect that in future. I think that it's really important. And I'm not saying that it's racist. I'm just saying that it brought up a topic of it and an undercurrent, and I just don't want that to be a distraction. It's really important that we get more African Americans playing baseball, So I think Anderson's a really good player. I did like the fact the Yankee fans booed him because all it did was it pissed him off to the point where he hit a home run and beat us, and it kind of puts us in an adversarial position. I don't like that. I just think that we need to shut up and play and win. And Donaldson sparked something that he didn't need to spark. Just shut your face. Just play baseball. That's all you need to do. That's my opinion. I don't know everyone's going to agree with it. Everyone's going to maybe think that I'm maybe being harsh on Donaldson. I just think that it was a dumb comment. You just move on, in my opinion.
Well, of course, we're not a podcast that we shut down the other one's opinion. There are
we don't always agree on everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
like
we're allowed to disagree.
There's certain people I will do that to. Not for any for reasons that like of reputation, but like obviously we know like I spoke to Donald about this and we disagreed, but that's not that's not a thing on me. That's not a thing on him. Did you see that there was another baseball bar bench clearing between the. I think you mean the White Sox, Jeffrey. That's what we're talking about. But like there are certain people that I will get irritated about it. What's his face? The pitching coach for the White Sox was like, "Oh, it's not enough." Like, you kidding me? What for words? Like, that's just my opinion. And then you have like people on Twitter, taking it as Donald. I know you liked my post about the 9/11 thing with Anderson hitting the
Yeah,
home
why
run.
you got to do that? Honestly, we're talking
Like,
about baseball teams, not cities.
Yeah, and you know what? I could say a shit ton of things about Chicago, but I won't. That's not really my concern.
Yeah, what I agree with you guys on is the fact that I don't believe there should be a racism topic here, and
Exactly.
I don't think it's fair. I think Donaldson was a bit of an asshole, but that doesn't make you a racist. It just makes you an asshole, and he's been a bit of an asshole in all the previous locker rooms he is. This is who he is. It worked at the start because he brought a positive influence and a bit of a fighting mentality in the locker room, but this is some. I think he took it a step too far, and it's not something that I kind of want moving forward. I hope he just shuts his mouth and just plays the game in future. But that's the way I am. But I don't like White Sox fans making us look racist. You know what I mean? And this is something that's going to be annoying.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, I got so the Guardian, which is a UK website, they never talk baseball, and then they had a big article about how Yankee fans were going after a black player and things like that. And that's
we have don't we have black players of our own? Like, come on, Spanish.
I mean, exactly. It's just that this whole racism topic that never needed to be brought up. That just sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah, my opinion on the whole thing is like I'll try to be chronological, but at the same time I'll try to separate the players as well. As Donald brought up, Josh Donaldson is an asshole. Like, whether you like it or not, he's that guy. He's the guy who brings edge to your locker room. Now, whether he should have said anything, and I'm not talking about the specific comment or anything like that, whether he should have said anything to start something, that you could debate on. Maybe he shouldn't have said just anything. Like, I'm not even just talking about the Jackie comment. There was really no need in some cases for the fuel to be more added to the fire. Do I think the Jackie comment had anything to do with racism? No. I thought he was trying to get under his skin.
Yeah.
I think Josh Donaldson actually joked about it a few years ago, and Tim Anderson and him were fine. And then, there's a possibility that what happened with Donaldson and Giolito, I believe, last year in the parking lot, that kind of changed it. Maybe that changed Anderson's opinion on Josh Donaldson. Now he's like, you know what? Fuck you.
That's probably it.
Now you go after my, go after my teammate. This is, I'm not going to like you anymore.
Yeah.
So you can debate whether, he should have said anything. And I'm not even talking about the specific comment itself for the millionth time. I'm talking about whether he should have said anything. Now, as for Tony La Russa, I think he wanted to stir the pot. Yeah. I think he wanted to finally get something going to try to get his ball club going. And in that case, you really shouldn't do that. I think that's very dirty in terms of optics because, A, you're stirring a pot that's, that is more than a baseball issue in all sorts of fashions, whether you're white, black, Asian, whatever your race is, whatever you belong to. I think that's, and shame on Tony La Russa because if that's it, I think he did this because his team was under 500. Now that they get that relevancy, now that they get the national headlines, that gets them going as a ball club. I think that's dirty. I think I'm going to say it right now. That's bullshit. Okay. As for Anderson, he's a great ball player. He's good at his craft. Nobody's discrediting that. With that being said about him, in my opinion, that some of that shit should have been handled like confidentially.
Like players between players, managers between managers.
As stupid as this example will be, like what was that incident a year ago with Francisco Lindor and the raccoon or something like that?
That was like, I think it was McNeil versus Lindor. Like they had a fight or something.
Yeah, and they were talking about some raccoon shit just to cover it up, but they handled it.
They handled it in their locker room.
Yeah. They didn't want the media knowing about it because it would have been a whole different spectacle of, the Mets locker room is divided and all this other stuff. I don't think anyone's bringing that up. So Anderson could have confronted Donaldson and said, "Look, I wasn't necessarily."
Even Donaldson gave him his number, I think, and he said, let's talk about this.
Yeah, to be fair to Donaldson, I thought what he said in the video was actually pretty fair because that little clip where he said, like, here's the context. There's nothing malicious intended, but if he was offended, then I apologize. That's absolutely fine. I mean, I don't really think they need to take it much further than that, in my personal view. So I don't really have any issues with what Donaldson said afterwards to the media, but the media have still jumped all over it. And
the media in Major League Baseball felt like they had to step in. Like, can we please let the players handle this between the players? This isn't like somebody's going to fight somebody. I know it's all verbal, like confrontation, not physical, but just let them handle between themselves. They're adults, for Christ's sake. This isn't Little League.
Yeah, it's a really good point about La Russa. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I agree. I think that there's certain managers, certainly old school managers, that like to use psychology to hit home. Us versus them, that kind of mentality, and it happens all over all sports, not just baseball. I think that there was an element of what La Russa was doing there. I think it's like an us versus them. Look, you got the Yankees there with their fans booing Anderson, and you've got a player in the Yankees who's possibly racist. We're going to use that to make it an us versus them, make the Yankees an adversarial position, and we're the good guys and that kind of thing. And he stirred that pot, man. And listen, did it work? Absolutely, it worked because the White Sox kicked our ass over the 2 days.
I'm still over the even with the headlines, Donald. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm still pissed we lost to the White Sox. Lost the series in general. We should have won either of those 2 games. We should have won the whole series. I think that would put.
I think there was psychology, though. I think that Tony La Russa did stir the pot, and I think it was very deliberate. I do think it was deliberate.
It's just like. Either way, how you feel about this as a Yankee fan, you just want to take care of them because you want to put away those headlines. Like you want to beat up, even with the straw stuff, you want to beat up those bad guys,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't like that post that you liked there where they were from the Chicago guys. Like, why even bringing up 9/11? That's disgusting. Never, ever.
Yeah, I mean, those are the type of people you have. And I'm not saying that Yankee fans aren't like, there are some Yankee fans that are definitely like that. Luke, I'll ask you to get that quote in a minute, because that's Brian Hoke. He's someone who's in the media, who's scum. We're not afraid to say it on here because a lot of people got the vibe, including myself, that Boone was throwing Donaldson under the bus. That wasn't the case. Apparently, he elaborated on it. But in the sense, and here's the problem I have with this team outside of the situation. Is that like you have moments like these, and then they don't back their own selves on it. Like whether you're like you want to plunk Anderson, whether you want to plunk Grandal, whether you want to be punks, whether you want to be punks, or whether you want to just actually like go in the situation and strike somebody out. It like the Miles Straw incident. Like if you wanted to plunk him, you could have plunked him. Like but I think.
Make a statement.
They're more concerned about image than they are.
It's all optics. It's all optics. That's what society and everything else is today. It's optics. You hit Tim Anderson, you're the bad guy. You hit Miles Straw, you're the bad guy because you're defending the.
Would there be any reason to hit Anderson? No, there was a reason to hit Straw. I thought what Straw did was more worse than what Anderson did. I think Anderson just felt disrespected. I'm not comparing
the situation in depth, but what I'm saying is like whether you hit Anderson, you hit Straw, whatever, like. The problem I have just with this team overall is that, like, okay, great. Yeah, they're in first place. We're bragging about it, right? We're saying the best team in the MLB. They don't – even though Donaldson did what he did, whether you disagree or agree, and even go back to that Straw incident, like, where's the edge? Where's the, okay, we're going to go punch him in the nose? Like, where is that? Like, I'm not saying literally punch them in the nose.
Like honestly, I think
they're not backing up what they're doing. And the problem is that's like mental toughness. That's the problem.
Can I add to your point, Alex? It's like they let Tim Anderson have the last laugh no matter what you think. They let him have the home run. Like if Donald's right, you pissed him off enough. Now you're going to give him this leverage where he's going to laugh at us because, I hit a 3-run home run in the 9th inning. No matter how you feel about the incident, whether me and Dal agree or disagree, you let him have the last laugh. That's what I don't like. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's my main point is the distraction that it caused to put the Yankees in a position where they're the bad guys, and the topic is not about the Yankees just going and playing and winning the game. Instead, it was all about this other thing. The entire game, man, the whole ESPN telecast was all about this conversation. And
To be fair,
the way the whole weekend played out, it was all about this conversation because the White Sox played really freaking hard, and they've obviously now got major issues with us because of it. And it was just this whole thing, and the Yankees just got caught up in it. I would actually say that prior to this series, the Yankees played very, very hard in pretty much every game.
They did.
They played very, very, very freaking hard. And I don't have an issue with the way the Yankees have approached games. But they looked a little overawed, especially after this incident. They looked like they were a little bit caught up in it. And then they got their asses beat. And they just made themselves a distraction. I'm very much old school in the way as just shut up and play, you know? And I don't want to add fuel to fire, and I don't want quotes to be made to be put on the other team's locker room, you know, where they then use that as motivation to go and kick our ass. You know, that was like Tom Coughlin was very much shut up and play kind of a guy, right? Just do your talking after you win. And I'm very much from that persuasion. I just believe that I don't want Yankee fans to be stirring a pot to the point where they're going to look like assholes and then get shushed, and then because Anderson's going to freaking hit a home run off them. I just don't want to I think you guys know my point. I just
you don't want to. Right.
Yeah.
Here's my
Can
thing
I break
about
down the quote?
Yeah, in just a second. Blue City says my coworker got fired for saying the word Kobe, but I back him up, and he got his job back.
For saying the word Kobe.
That's interesting. Now, here's what I will
there's got to be more context to that. I'm not saying I don't believe in Blue City Empire, but still.
And listen, you know, agree to disagree on certain points regarding this. That's been the whole conversation. It's been a civil conversation, let's say. ESPN, I know it was a big headline, and I'm very aware of that. But ESPN, they decided to go on about that.
Oh my God! Thank God I didn't listen.
You could have said it. Look, this is the situation that happened, and then move on and just talk baseball the rest of the game. But they didn't do that.
No, they didn't do that.
The whole game, racism, Josh Donaldson, Tim Anderson. And a reflection on that, or just like overall as a Yankees fan, going back to my central point, the Yankees brought in a player with edge. And if it wasn't, and I'm not talking about the comment of racism or any of that distraction stuff, and I get Donald's point, but here's what I will say in, disagreements, because I've seen this before, right? I'm not trying to compare the conversation or just the situation, but like OBJ, he was considered a distraction. There was certain other players, great players that were considered distractions, like, different players just overall. And, I think we would really, not in the terms of racism once again, but in the terms of, what if we got Correa? Would he have said maybe him and Anderson, or maybe him and another player had bad blood and he started something? And I'm not defending all of it, but I'm just saying, Donaldson, different people could say, oh, well, he's a distraction. He's created this whole plethora of situations, whatever. But at the same time, if we got Correa, he would have done possibly a similar thing to a different player. But you look at the other alternative where you just have no guys being leaders and no guys being edge players. Like Judge, when he did that thing in 2018 with the boom box in the New York,
yeah,
he was trying. Nobody sees him as that type of player.
No.
So once again, it's a weird situation to be in. It's a weird situation to talk about, even outside of the racism topic. But you either have a player who stirs the pot, or you have a team that's a bunch of aliens, and that doesn't do anything.
I think there could be some middle ground there.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
But
I don't have an issue with him being the type of character he is. I just think that instead of the topic of conversation being how great the Yankees are, which should have been the topic of conversation, it was about an issue that never should have been brought up in the first place. Listen, I don't mind the fact that he's a bit of a asshole. I don't mind it. I don't care.
We've had players in the past that Reggie Jackson was not a nice guy.
No, I don't care about if someone's nice or not. I just want you to be a good player. I just don't want you to do something which would take away from what's going on the field, man. Like, no one cared that Odell Beckham was eccentric until he did that celebration where it looked like he was taking a piss like a dog and then the end zone, and then suddenly people were like, what the hell is he doing, right? Just you cut that stuff out and you just play the game. People are just going to appreciate you, even no matter what you are off the field. And I just think that Donaldson just needs to focus on playing the game rather than shit stirring. I think it could have been another way you could shit stir. You could have called him anything. Just don't bring up something like that. That's in my opinion.
Lucid, he says Bryce Harper was a jerk, and he still is a jerk. People did not like him. Yeah, I mean, he's another asshole. He's a hothead.
To explain can I explain what Aaron Boone said?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Aaron Boone said in the whole presser, this is not exactly what he said, but he said it essentially. He looked at it one way, and then he heard the context, and then he changed his opinion. And then he basically said, you know what? He basically said to me, Donaldson should not get further involved. He shouldn't, make this worse. Not that he was ripping him, but he was saying, you know what? It happened. Donaldson, it happened. Donaldson needs to, just move on from it. He didn't say, he wasn't throwing his player under the bus, Alex. It's like, you know what? Happened. Whatever happened. Let Donaldson and Anderson work this out. Let Donaldson do. Let's. That's. You get my point, Alex?
Yeah, I get it.
I agree. I think he said it best, Aaron did. Yeah, sorry.
And Brian Hoke said what? Okay.
Brian Hoke. Let me see. I'm sorry.
Joke?
Yeah, Brian Joke. I'm just gonna look up one of my tweets real quick.
He probably did, and
here's what the quote said. Brian Hoke posted, Aaron Boone said that Donaldson has been forthcoming about his history with Anderson, but he quoted Boone saying, this, just in my opinion, somewhere Donaldson should not be going. You got to, again, like in life, you got to read the entire thing. You don't fall for the clickbait bullshit, because Hoke, let's be honest, is trying to stir up drama. That's what the media does. They spin the stories and they blow things out of proportion. Just like Tony La Russa did, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much actually settled on this topic. Agree to disagree, but a civil conversation overall. And I like how.
Yeah, I think we all agree on the outcome. I don't think that. I think it has been slightly overblown, but yeah, we just have different takes on.
This is what life. This is what society needs to be like. Different takes, but we can all agree to disagree, not freaking radical
on the outcome. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just as I say, we should not be discussing Josh Donaldson's comments. We need to be discussing Aaron frickin' Hicks or Joey Gallo or frickin' what we're going to do, why we're losing to Baltimore. That's the biggest issue rather than frickin' Josh Donaldson being an asshole. I mean, Aaron Hicks offends me. Just watching him offends me.
Yeah.
That is more offensive than anything that Josh Donaldson did.
The fact that, oh boy.
What's the matter?
So here's Aaron Judge on the Donaldson incident.
Oh boy.
Ooh, this will be interesting.
Joke or not, I just don't think, and I think he has a Donald kind of viewpoint here. Joke or not, I just don't think it's the right thing to do there, especially given the history, especially the series in Chicago, the beef between Anderson and JD. JD made a mistake. He owned up to it. Now we have time to move on.
I'm agreed with him. That's the way I view it too. I just don't think you need to go there. And it sounds like Aaron Judge is being a leader there. He's just kind of being like, I'm going to support you. What you did was dumb, but I'm going to support you and we're going to move on. I think that's pretty much where I'm at.
And then he also said Anderson's one of the best shortstop in the game, and he's a big part of the MLB. What's going on and how we can grow the game? Yeah, I mean,
True.
Kind of just a little bit disagree with what he said. Like, I understand the backing up your teammate standpoint. Well, I mean, in the sense of like, admitting he was wrong or how many, however people perceive it. But at the same time, like, you could say no comment, my opinion. But I see where he has the Donald vision there. Which
I just think he's just being a leader. I think he's trying to represent everyone because there's a lot of people that are greatly offended. Whether we view it as offensive or not doesn't actually matter because it's not really up to us to be offended or not. I think a lot of people were offended. A lot of people were very offended by it. And I think what Aaron Judge is doing is he's trying to be political. He's just sort of like, listen, I've got to represent the Yankee locker room. There will be people in that locker room that will be very pissed off at Josh Donaldson. Trust me. There'll be a lot of people in that and so he's just trying to say, listen, what he did was dumb, but we're going to move forward. Because remember, Aaron Judge is half African American, or maybe he's got an African American parent, right? So maybe he felt offended. I don't know. I'm not Aaron Judge. I'm just saying that I think that what he's doing is he's trying to be a captain, an unofficial captain, where he's just like, you know what, we all just need to move on, and that's what I want us to do. I just want us to move on too. I do think it was genuinely dumb, though. Josh Donaldson, I think it was dumb.
Again, it's back to the point. Whether you feel but this or that about this, you know what? Let's not make it a distraction. Let's move on. Let's play baseball.
Yeah, amen, man.
And I wish the media didn't create a big headline about this, but I'm ready to talk some NBA.
Can I just before we talk NBA, let's get on to Aaron Hicks, man, because we've not really properly discussed him. Friday, I put directly on Aaron Hicks. I think it was the game prior to the weekend, the White Sox series. He was directly responsible for that loss.
The White Sox, the Friday game was rained out, so you're thinking maybe one of the Sunday
Thursday.
games.
Yeah,
okay, Thursday.
Thursday game. He was directly responsible. Well, the bases loaded, and he struck out. And then when he lounged about in the outfield and then threw the ball in and then allowed the guy to tag up, I mean, he's just a freaking disgrace. He's a disgrace. He's minus 24 defensive runs saved since 2018. He ain't good in the outfield anymore. Offensively, if you look at the advanced analytics on Aaron Hicks, like Rob brought it up in the Pinstripe Chronicles episode, he went into detail, but basically like his barrel percentage is like in the bottom 2%. It's like his offensive statistics are all time bad. There are freaking,
especially with runners in scoring position. He's got to be like one of the worst.
He's got a 125 batting average at runners in scoring position, so he's not hitting with runners in scoring position.
I think I would hit with runners in scoring position.
He was on a 4 for 43 slump prior to the White Sox series. I mean, that's just an embarrassment. It's an abomination. I don't understand why.
He's just playing like he doesn't want to be here, in my opinion.
He doesn't care about baseball. From what I believe, he spends his off seasons playing golf. I think he trains harder at golf than he does at baseball. I don't think he genuinely cares about the sport that he's being paid handsomely to play. I get the impression he does not care. I don't see a guy that cares. And I can't stand that. He just seems soft. He's a terrible outfielder now. He provides nothing other than walks. I mean, he's basically me if I was a professional, because I can't hit shit. All I would do is pray that I could walk because I can see the ball pretty well, and I just wait for walks. That's all I would do when I played baseball. And he's exactly what Aaron Hicks is, because he can't hit this.
Let me ask you, Donald, how tall are you? Because if you're not very tall, you could probably get away with walks.
I'm 6 foot.
Okay, so that's a good 4 inches more than I am, probably. But yeah, you might get away with it, depending on the pitcher. If it's a Roldis Chapman, you'll get away with it.
Yeah.
No, I think Aaron Hicks is such a disgrace. Awful baseball player.
Here's the thing, like, that also concerns me about the ball club. I was talking about edge earlier, and I was talking about the Yankees fighting back in a situation like Donaldson situation, right? they're not benching like the accountability for certain players is not there. Like Gallo, he's in his own world. We obviously know the situation there. But like Aaron Hicks, it's just like once again, it's like he doesn't give a shit. And then you don't bench him. You don't take account. Like Clay Holmes should have been the closer this past week.
Yeah. I think Aaron Hicks should have been benched after that game that I was referring to, prior to the White Sox game, because he was deliberately lazy. Because when he caught that ball in the outfield, even Maben and Beltran
called him out.
were calling him out on the fact that he caught the ball and took a bad word to it, first of all, and then didn't bother throwing the ball to the infield to allow guys to tag up and taking that extra base in order to score runs. He was directly responsible for at least a couple runs in terms of defense. And offensively, he cost us a bunch of runs because he struck out with the bases loaded and nobody out. He's a disgrace. He's so freaking lazy. He's so freaking lazy, man. And there needs to be some accountability. And there was none because he was right back in the middle of the order the next time that we played. It was disgraceful.
I don't get like the imbalance of like, oh, sometimes he's the 9, sometimes he's the 1, sometimes he's a 5 hitter.
He's definitely not a 6 hitter.
How about he's definitely not a major league hitter?
No, he's not. As I say, his advanced. Have a look at his advanced analytics. It's like basically all of it is poor apart from walks. Everything is poor. Like he's not hitting the ball with any power or hitting the ball with any authority at all. It's like amongst the worst in baseball.
Unbelievable.
It's like
Luca,
baseball savant, I think it is.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people use, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's totally bad, but like the way people on Twitter like just use it as Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but it actually helps in this instance because even the analytics hate Aaron Hicks. So that really makes me wonder why the Yankees are so obsessed with him. It's like a Brian Cashman project. Like, remember he tried to inflict this on Gary Sanchez for years, even though he couldn't play?
Yeah.
And same with Greg Bird. And the new project is Aaron Hicks. You paid him a ridiculous contract, which made no sense at the time. I was one of the few people that just completely against it. And it's worked out that way. He's just a terrible baseball player. Freaking horrible. I can't stand him. I can't stand looking at him.
Luca, if you want to go into your NBA.
So
while you discuss the playoffs, I got to step out for something. So if you're going to need prospect of the week, that might have to wait till I come back.
All right, I wasn't going to do it immediately. So we had the NBA lottery, Donald. And we all know, Donald, that it is an exciting time of the year. We reveal our fate. Unfortunately, we didn't land the top pick, which I wasn't surprised. I wasn't complaining. I expected it. We landed the 11th pick overall. So the draft order goes like this. Number 1, Orlando. Now, the most infamous, when it comes to my mind, the most famous pick Orlando had at number 1 was Shaq. So there you have it. 2, OKC. I'll get into OKC in a sec. Houston, the Rockets 3. Kings 4. Detroit 5. Indiana 6th. Portland 7th. New Orleans 8th. San Antonio 9th, 10th Washington, Knicks at 11, Thunder at 12 because of the Clippers pick, 13 the Charlotte Hornets, and 14 the Cleveland Cavaliers. So what are your thoughts on the draft order, Donald?
Well, from what I believe, the Kings obviously made a big jump. Getting up to 4 is big for Sacramento. That was one of those surprises. So I'm from what I'm hearing, they are shopping that pick to try and acquire a veteran that will help them win now.
Same with the Blazers.
If I were them, I wouldn't because they got a gift moving up to 4. That is a gift,
right.
And there are some nice forwards in this draft. I believe at least one will drop to 4.
Jaden Ivey.
Well. I don't think they might go guard because they love guards. Remember they did it before when they selected Mitchell when they already had Halliburton and Fox, so they could do it again. Jaden Ivey would be a amazing combo guard to put beside Fox, but if I were them, they need a forward, man. They have no bigs at all. And there's some nice bigs in this draft. So obviously, Chet Holmgren is going to go before 4.
Paulo Kettle.
Jabari Smith, I think, from all the mock drafts are saying he's going to go number 1 overall, Jabari Smith. But you could maybe interchange that. It could be Jabari Smith 2, Chet Holmgren 1. But those are the 2 main guys. Then you got Jaden Ivey probably after that. But then there's some other forwards after him that I think the Kings.
So their starting lineup would look like this right now. It would be Fox, Mitchell, Barnes, Trey Lyles, and Domantas Sabonis. Now, I don't see really Trey Lyles as a starting forward. He's more of like that stretch 4 backup. That's just my opinion. Maybe they go power forward, like as we highlighted. Maybe Jabari Smith, maybe Banchero, maybe
Banchero.
So we'll see with that. I always say they're in basketball purgatory. They're not good enough to win games. They're not good enough to completely tank, although they have the 4th overall pick. So that's a slight change this year. So OKC is rewarded with another high pick. Do you a lot of our guest TK from last week, he was actually I was reading his Twitter thread. He was kind of irritated with how OKC gets number 2, I think I just read. Because the Thunder have tanked for so many years, and they get so many high draft picks, and they're never penalized by they keep getting the same top 4 picks, the top 6 picks. Does that kind of irritate you?
It's disgusting. I mean, the amount of picks that they have is just ridiculous. They got 30 picks or something like that. They shouldn't. The way that they behave should not earn them these continual top 2 to 3s. But I mean, listen, it's the lottery. It happens. But I can't stand them. I just don't like the way that they approach rebuilding. But I mean, if you look at the NBA mock draft, they've got Orlando taking Jabari Smith. You've got Oklahoma taking Chet Holmgren. You've got Houston getting Paolo Banchero and Jaden Ivey going to Sacramento. That seems to be the consensus in a lot of mock drafts I'm seeing on CBS, NBA mock, and NBA Draft.net. That's that as well. Looks like Jabari Smith seems to be the consensus number 1 overall at the moment. Who would you say? Who would you prefer between him and Banchero? I know one's the center and that was far forward, but
I'll be honest, I really don't know because I didn't do enough research. But again, either or, I guess. In my opinion, I mean that's my fault. I got to catch up on that. So the last number 1 overall pick the Magic had was 2004 when they drafted Dwight Howard. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty damn successful, as I would say. So moving on, Miami is getting their shit kicked out of them by the Boston Celtics. Now, Donald, fun fact, they went the first 6 minutes without making a shot in the first quarter. That's how bad they were. They were down 25-4 at one point.
Who Boston?
Miami was down.
Oh, Miami. Listen, we said that in our last pod, man. I didn't love Miami's depth against Boston. There's a dearth of scoring outside of Butler and maybe Hero. After that, it's not great. I think Bam maybe, but he's not exactly a scorer necessarily. So
he had a big game 3. He had 31 points.
Yeah.
So here's another fun fact.
Great player.
Awesome. 12 points in the first half combined for all Miami starters. 12 points. That's horrible. And Boston's played really well. I like how Al Horford is playing out of his mind again. It's like he's completely rejuvenated. Not like he's all-star status, but he's just, he's doing his thing. And that's what you got to expect out of him. Jason Tatum has also played really well. He didn't play well last game because that's probably a major reason as why Boston lost. So I'm going to go over that real quick. Miami took the commanding 2-1 lead last game without Jimmy Butler behind a strong performance from Bam Adebayo. I think he had 31 points. Mm-hmm. Despite small comeback from Boston in Game 3, Jaylen Brown lit up Miami for 40 points, but didn't get his help from his co-star and Jason Tatum. He just struggled from the field. Marcus Smart and Al Horford last game combined for 36 points and 18 rebounds. So they're really on their game. I don't think Smart's playing tonight.
I want Boston to win because I think Boston-Golden State will be a much better series. I think it'll be a lot more enjoyable. I think there'll be more offense. Miami play a certain style. It's very defensive, 100% defense, and
Yeah.
it'd be better for a neutral, I think, for to get just some great scores. Brown's an awesome scorer. Tatum's an amazing scorer, and obviously Golden State. We don't even need to talk about how great they are. So,
I mean, your least favorite player, Victor Oladipo, is the leading scorer for Miami right now.
oh, I hate him. God, I'm so glad the Knicks didn't get him.
Well, I was worried they were going to trade him.
I can't stand him.
This is the first time since 2019 he's played 12 games in a row.
Yeah, he's so injury prone.
I liked him back in Indiana, but of course injuries have gotten to him.
Remember when the Rockets traded for him? When the Rockets traded for him, I was like,
oh yeah, that was like a part of the whole
disaster.
Harden thing. That was a full.
What an awful trade that was.
Yeah. So Kyle Lowry made an impact steal in the final seconds of the fourth quarter. Turnovers were an issue for the Celtics, but they've changed that tonight. You know, as I said, Tatum's played really well. Robert Williams too. So then to our next series, Golden State 3-0 up on the Mavericks. The Mavericks seem like they just don't stand a chance now, and they blew a 14-point lead from halftime on Friday.
Yeah, no, I've been more in tune in that series. It's kind of as we discussed on our previous podcast. Doncic just doesn't have enough help to.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, because Doncic, by and large, has been great. It's just there's not a lot of support coming from him. I mean, Brunson a little bit.
Brunson's been solid. He hasn't been like great, but he's been.
He's been solid. But and then after him, what are you thinking? Finney Smith has not really been great.
Dinwiddie's doing his stuff. Dinwiddie's scoring from the bench, which is what you need. But did you see Reggie Bullock's stat line from last night? He must have been like 0 for 10, 0 for 6 from 3. He was absolutely ice cold. So was Maxi Kleber. He was ice cold as well. And he was a very big factor in that Suns series with all his three-point shooting.
Remember when we were discussing what were the keys to the series?
And the X factors?
X factors. I said that Bullock had to have a big series because he needs to provide some offense from the perimeter to help Doncic. And he's also going to have to guard these incredible scorers like Poole and Thompson and Curry, and he's not really done it. The Golden State have completely dominated. So I think that it's just a depth thing, because if you look at Golden State's depth, I've just mentioned 3 excellent guards right there. And then you go and you've got Looney, who's having a fantastic playoffs. He's going right under the radar. He's playing great for Golden
Dallas
State.
just does not have that big to battle with him.
No, they don't have a big.
Dwight Powell is not good enough.
Nope.
And they just don't have the size. You know, Golden State doesn't really have the size either, but Kevon Looney is just playing out of his mind.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind.
So, again, maybe Mavericks sign Mitchell Robinson in the offseason. We'll probably get to that, but TK and I were talking about this today. Would you see it as an abomination if the Knicks let Mitch go and they justify that Nerlens Noel contract? Think about it.
I don't think the two things need to be mutually exclusive. I think that I don't think it's the end of the world if Mitch Robinson leaves. I think you can find a rim protector. There's certainly in the draft. I mean,
right, there's
Jalen Duran, right off the top of my head. So if they wanted to go that route where they didn't really want to invest in Mitch Robinson, because Mitch Robinson will want to get paid. He's changed agents about 3 or 4 times. You're not going to do that by accident. You're not doing that to sign a team-friendly deal. So he's probably going to want to get paid in the same kind of amount that Williams getting paid for Boston. So it'll be in that range. Be slightly more than what we're paying Nerlens Noel. But we need to move on from Nerlens Noel. Noel sucks
that's
balls.
A disgusting contract.
He sucks balls, and I hated it from the start. I was like, this is a disaster. So that's where we are. I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at another center starting next year. But Nerlens Noel cannot be on the roster. He should be in another universe.
Exactly. And you know what's funny? Snacks came on here a couple months ago. He's like, I brought an argument with him. I thought it was a very good argument I brought to him. He said Taj Gibson and Donaldson were better than Mitchell Robinson.
Taj Gibson was underrated, man. Like his blocking improved as a Nick.
His 3-point shooting was out of character because he really shot the ball well for him at least.
Yeah. And his perimeter defense was actually one of our best all-round defenders in the entire roster, and there's absolutely no question about it. Now, am I saying that he should be playing the amount of minutes that he was playing?
No.
Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. But he was definitely better than the statistics will actually lead you to believe. I thought that the minutes that he got in the court, we looked better when he played because he provided defense, and Thibodeau's all about defense. But we need to find a younger Taj Gibson, I think.
Yeah, I think Schwinny-Poo, I think that's his name. He writes for the Strickland. He's like, there are some pros to letting Mitch go. You could get a more effective screener. You get somebody with a better offensive game. Mitch has not. He also mentioned that, Mitch hasn't really made an attempt to better his game when it comes to offense. His free throw shooting is abysmal.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a hook shot. He doesn't create off the dribble. It's all about the alley-oops and what he finds in the paint. Now, he's a good offensive rebounder that improved a lot this year, but still, it's just the offensive game that lacks.
So Thibodeau, he needs to have a rim protector on at all times in the court. So if you're going to move on from Mitch Robinson, we need a rim protector to replace him because that's something that's absolutely key to the way Thibodeau lines up. So that's something that we have to bear in mind. That's why I love Nerlens Noel so much, because Nerlens Noel was great rim protector. Yeah. So, but if you're going to give Mitch that kind of contract, then you need a 4, which is going to work well with him. Randall and Mitch Robinson never really coexisted very well.
You need that stretch 4. Randall's not a stretch 4. He's a bully in the paint.
Yeah. And you can't have a bully in the paint right beside somebody who offers nothing outside of like a foot outside the basket.
Right.
So that's where we run into a problem. So the Knicks need to be smart about how they're going to approach this. If they're going to give Mitch money to be the rim protector of the future, then they need a stretch 4. And then Randall has to go. I think Randall has to go anyway, but but that's something that they need to be smart about. I wouldn't pay over the odds for Mitch Robinson. I think you can find another Mitch Robinson. I'm pretty sure Jericho Sims could be a future Mitch Robinson.
Yeah, their games are pretty identical, and Sims kind of seems like he wants to have that post game, but center's kind of like, I don't want to say it's easily replaceable, but you can find a good one. You can find a solid starting center out there. Like, there's guys better than Mitch. There's a ton of guys better than Mitch. Ayton. I don't think we'll have enough money to pay Ayton, but I would love him on this team. Unfortunately, I was a little disappointed what he did in the Dallas series.
Yeah, Monty Williams seemed to have trouble getting through to him. And if Monty Williams is genuinely probably top 2, top 3 best coaches in the NBA is struggling to motivate him to play his best, what's Thibodeau going to do? Thibodeau will have no patience for him. So
unless it's about the contract, but again,
I also wouldn't. Would you pay $20 million for Ayton, who is not? I don't know. As you say, centers you can move on. You can find centers for a good contract, cheap, that can provide rim protection and rebounds.
Jeffrey says, Luca, do you think the Boston Celtics will win on Wednesday night? Now that that game is in Miami. It could go, again, I don't want to sound bland, but it could go honestly either way. Like, Boston Celtics had their blowout in game 2. Miami ripped the shit out of Boston game 1. Miami was blowing out Boston in game 3. Boston had a comeback, but Miami ended up winning. Boston blows out. I don't know how to call this series, Jeffrey. I don't want to sound bland. I don't want to sound like I'm not giving you a straight answer. But it's just so unpredictable. That's the correct word.
It is, yeah.
Again, would I pay Ayton? Yes. 15 to 16 million it's like 15 to 17 million seems like the right price, but he's good.
Yeah,
Again,
that's fair. I wouldn't go in the 20 range for him though.
I also want to let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Give me 1 second, because did you see the Andrew Wiggins poster dunk from yesterday?
Oh, I actually haven't yet. No.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna share my screen. He absolutely threw down a nasty dunk on Luka. So nasty. Yes. So let's watch and see.
Oh! Call the police. There's been a murder. Damn.
Absolutely nasty.
That's
and he's had a good series, Wiggins. He's had a very good series. Let me just say that. So
I know I've never been a big Wiggins fan going into this year, but he was in a very, very good year. Steve Kerr is just an amazing coach, man. He just gets the most out of everyone.
undeniable. So, Alex, I'm going to present the video file. Let me see if I could. This week's prospect of the week is actually a center. It's not Jalen Duren. See, Donald, have you looked at Johnny Davis? Because I know he was impressed by Thibodeau, but I haven't done my work on him. You read anything up on him?
Not enough. No.
All right, so wait for this video file to find itself. All right, so Alex is going to put it up for us. So, hold on, let me pause that for a second. All right, so welcome back to Prospect of the Week, everybody. Although we haven't done it for the past few weeks, we're back this week with another edition of Prospect of the Week. I alluded to earlier that I would have done 2 this week, but unfortunately, I had FiOS connection issues earlier today. I would have done Johnny Davis as well, since he did meet with the Knicks. So, if you need a reminder, we'll be looking at 1 prospect per episode in the coming weeks before the NBA draft, which is at the end of June. Some can fill the Knicks' needs or just be any highly touted prospect in this year's draft. This week's prospect is Auburn center Walker Kessler. He stands at 7'1", weighing in at 245 pounds with a 7'5" wingspan. Last season for the Tigers,
I like Kessler.
He averaged 11.4 points per game, 4.6 blocks, which I believe was 3rd in all of college basketball. He had 8.1 rebounds, shot 60% from the field, 70% from 2, and 20% from downtown. So to start, he is a tremendous shot blocker. Kessler ranked 2nd, actually, in blocks per game, sitting behind Western Kentucky's Jamarian Sharp. Kessler is one with good instincts and technique. So let's showcase some of his blocking ability. And also, I like his mobility as well. So picks off the defender right there. Just good technique, staying patient.
Yeah.
Hands up fundamental defense. That's what I like about him.
Yeah.
So moving to the next part of his game, he stands out with his superior mobility. It gives him the ability to make chase down blocks on defense. Kessler can also defend well on the perimeter. His mobility allows him to set good screens and quickly roll to the basket, making him a PNR nightmare for opposing defenses. He's also a decent ball handler for his size. He can also operate with his offense out of the low post. So getting to a little bit of his mobility skills, there's his block right there. Again, here you go. Here's the mobility, moving with the ball handler. Good size, using his length, his big arms. Even if he's out of place, he uses that big length, big wingspan. Again, the mobility is probably the most impressive part of his defense. Not even just the shot block. Because if you're his height, you could easily block shots. Amari could block shots. KP could block shots. Whatever. The mobility just stands out. So at the next level, Kessler's mobility will present issues for bigs that are not his size but cannot match his movement skills. Best in the NBA. You think of guys like Embiid, Jokic, Towns, and Gobert have all great size but are slow moving when picking up ball handlers. Let me also add this defense in the
He moves his feet well.
very good. Yeah, his defense in the PNR is probably his best attribute. So I'm gonna go find. Here we go. This is him defending the pick and roll. Reads the roller, and then he picks up the ball handler with the shot block. Another tape. Good hands.
Do you know what I love?
What?
Keeps his hands straight up.
It's fundamental.
His fundamentals are good, man. Keeps those hands straight up.
Sets the pick. Ball carrier goes to the basket, uses hands, as Donald alluded to. You know, he's very good at picking up the pick and roll. And we mentioned on this podcast how Mitchell Robinson can struggle with the pick and roll, especially when it came to pick and pops. So, again, pick and roll again.
That's great. Moves his feet again.
Never blindsided by the guy rolling to the basket.
That was great, too. Good defensive awareness. Oh, we've done it again.
Very good awareness. I'm actually more impressed now. So, good read, pick up here. He blocks the shot. And he's good at blocking three-pointers, you know, coming off the pick and rolls.
That's something Mitch Robinson is good at, so that would be good to replace.
Here comes the offensive pick and rolls.
Ooh, yeah.
Alley-oop. Here comes the screen. He's going to roll to the basket, wide open lane.
Screen and roll, nice job.
Fakes the screen, gets up for the ball.
Oh, he's doing it again. Bang, alley-oop.
So, another pick and roll here. Goes to the basket once again. So, now we got to get to some of his flaws. Unlike the previous elite centers that I just mentioned, outside of Gobert, Kessler does have trouble stretching the floor with his shooting. His shooting form is very much a work in progress. He often starts with his release behind his shoulder. His release point is not the most consistent. Relating to his poor shooting mechanics, he's also an underwhelming free throw shooter, shooting around 59.6%. His offensive game is somewhat limited, but if you fix his shooting stroke, it will be the primary task in fixing his offensive game. So, get to about right here. It just doesn't seem smooth, Donald.
No.
Pick and pop. It's like he starts.
Oh, that's ugly, yeah. Shot putting it.
Let's see another clip of the shot prowess, with a not so shot prowess. Open shot here, tries to create his own. Missed that time. I think I have an air ball in here somewhere. Nope. I think he makes the shot. Nope, he doesn't. So it's just not fluid mechanics. Now this is the air ball. So that's probably the biggest weakness of his game. So another issues of Kessler's, how we were mentioning the fundamental defense, is the foul trouble, actually. He averaged, let me look up the stats. I have them right here. 2.6 fouls per game, personal fouls. Quick rim drivers tend to have a step or two, sometimes on Kessler, prompting him to try to strip the ball handler or block the shot instead of moving quicker laterally, staying square with his hands up. With the right coaching at the next level, Kessler will become more disciplined on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. We can already see that. I'm not worried about that. His IQ, you can already tell in the film that he's got high IQ.
Here's the foul. Gets a little too aggressive trying to slap the ball out of his hands. Next play. Kessler tries to go up for the block and pursues a little over aggressively.
Yeah, that could be an issue.
Kessler takes on his man, and he's also a guy who tends to fall for the shot fakes. He's a guy easily you can get him up in the air, and the offensive ball handler will draw the contact. So my pro comparison, which I've seen sometimes, I did this on my own, but I also looked around some videos, other stuff like that. I watched some of Miles Turner's college film. I do see a comparison between the two. Both have excellent shot blocking ability. Offensively, both Turner and Kessler can operate from the low post, but they both struggle sort of with the quicker defenders because their average athleticism. The biggest difference that stands out between two, Turner's ability to space the floor with his better shooting form. to reach Turner-like potential, Kessler's going to have to put in some work fixing his shot. So
he projects as a late first round guy.
Yes.
So the mocks have him in the 26, 28 range. I think ideal would be Dallas. I believe Dallas are picking 26th. I think they would be perfect for him because they need a rim protector. They need exactly what he provides. I think he'd be a really good selection for them.
And he's a good rebounder, too. They need rebounders.
Really good rebounder. We should certainly cover some of the guys who the Knicks are mocked with. So maybe Agbaji, be interested in that. Kennedy Chandler.
Yeah, I like Chandler.
I like Chandler a lot.
I'm gonna reevaluate, my order for the next couple of weeks. I might start
Daniel,
doing multiple. Jalen Duran, other guys. Mathurin actually met with the Knicks. I'd love Ben Mathurin. Didn't we already do him, Ben? Yes.
Yeah.
His form, him and RJ on the wings. It's like it would remind me of RJ and Cam at Duke.
Yeah.
Like I could see him being compared to a Cam Reddish, but maybe he's better.
I didn't like the Ty Washington.
Yeah, he's still raw. He's not my guy. He's not my guy. He didn't impress.
Yeah, you did a really good breakdown on him. I didn't love the tape that I saw on him. Kessler could be in play if we trade down.
I really want to trade up, though, in my opinion. I think you've said this how many times, and I have to agree. We have too many role players in this team.
Oh, yeah.
There's not enough star potential. That's why I'm saying trade up to 7.
There's every possibility that we maybe just trade out altogether and use that as a package for a bigger name. That's also a possibility. But it's an interesting draft because it's very deep. Basically, after you get out of the top 5, then you're going to there's a lot of talent. They're right down to the bottom. As I say, Walker Kessler, you're going to get him at 26, 27 possibly. Kennedy Chandler's being mocked in the 20s. There is depth and there's talent. So there's a lot of ways the Knicks can move, and it'll be very interesting how they do it because I like this draft actually even better than I liked last year's draft, in my personal opinion. This
is more of a wing center heavy draft.
Yeah.
Not much. If you're looking for a point guard, I don't think you're going to find, the guy you want. One guy, TK is very high on Johnny Davis, and another guy who's extensively in the draft says he doesn't like him for the Knicks because he is not a great passer of the basketball, although he can score and he's a good defender. So Davis is going to be one where I will be highlighting him on this channel. Kennedy Chandler's going to have to. Banchero, other top prospects as well. Jalen Duran.
It's not a great point guard draft. That is my main complaint, and that's what the Knicks desperately need. Ideally, at 11, you'd want an automatic point guard that you can go and draft. The only one that I think that would be possible would be Kennedy Chandler, but that might even be reaching 11. I'm not sure. So,
it seems that way.
Yeah.
So, Celtics won tonight. We will be doing the game Wednesday unless we have some plans, which I don't think we do. Alex, I think we could wrap it up from here.
Do want to sneak in something because I don't want to go on a broken promise here. I want to do at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 teams with schedule predictions.
I think we could do 3. Okay. We did 3 last time.
So let's share the screen. All right. I'm gonna give a minute for the chat to answer which team we should do as schedule predictions. If not, we will concur on our own and start from there. I have a team in mind. That if the chat doesn't answer in the next minute, I'll give it to about 14, 15. 3, 14, 15 for the chat to answer. If not, I have a team in my head that we could go with.
What is your team in mind? Let me just ask.
I'm thinking the Steelers.
That's an interesting one to predict. They're pretty much mid-tier.
All right, how about this?
They're tough to call, Steelers.
How about this? I picked the Steelers. Donald, throw out a team.
Baltimore.
Luca.
Donald stole mine by Baltimore. I'm gonna think of another team. Miami.
I knew you were going to say them. All right. Let's go to Pittsburgh. So they're already 0-2. They're losing to the Jets and they're losing to the Bucks. Sunday, week 1, I'm taking the Bengals.
Yes.
Of course. Joe Burrow against.
This one's going to be an interesting matchup. Week 2.
Mid versus mid. See, I want to know who's the starter for the freaking Steelers.
There's Trubisky and there's Pickett.
Yikes. Yikes and double yikes.
This is a mid-off. Right?
Why do I see New England pulling this out?
Damn.
I do too.
I'm saying New England.
Yeah. So I'm going 0-2 from the start.
All right, the Steelers are
Another interesting. I'm going to assume that Watson's going to be suspended, so I'm actually going to pick the Steelers here.
Have we heard how long the possible suspension could be?
We have
I
no
know I
idea.
said a few weeks, but I think you might need to make it certain he's out for week 3.
Who's going to be the backup?
Mayfield.
Baker.
Is Mayfield going to be on the roster?
Apparently, that's why they've been holding him back, because of Watson's potentials for a suspension.
And
That's why they have
even that, like, I'm not saying the Steelers are the Broncos of last year, but what was it? The running game totally carried the Browns against the Broncos last year when they were out, when their quarterback was out. They got Jacoby Brissett and Joshua Dobbs as backups if Baker Mayfield's not on the roster. I say they lean on the running game, but it's not going to be enough in this matchup. We did do a Giants schedule prediction, Neymar. We have them going 7-10. At the end, if you want to stay till the end, which shouldn't be too long, we'll actually show you who they win against, who they lose against. Obviously, the Steelers are going to win against Buffalo.
So just to be clear, you guys are going to go with the Steelers over the Browns, yeah?
Yes.
Are the Browns at home?
Browns are at home.
I'm going to go Cleveland.
Now, hold on a second. You know what? Good point, because I see Thursday Night Football. Who is Cleveland playing on before that?
We can check that out.
Because I want to
You
know.
guys.
Right. I'll pick Cleveland.
Okay, so the Steelers are off to a terrible start.
0-4.
Oh, man. Everyone wants Mike Tomlin fired now.
Sean would be ripping me to shreds right now because he thinks that the Jets can lose to the Steelers. They can, but their team is mid.
Number 5, week number 5, the Jets. Excuse me, not the Jets. The Steelers travel to Buffalo. I think
Buffalo's going to wipe them out.
Super duper L.
0-6? Wow.
Damn.
Steelers at Dolphins.
We have some major crow to eat if the Steelers actually do good this year.
I think the Steelers are better than we're giving them credit for, but I don't trust their quarterback situation.
Neither do I.
Miami versus Pittsburgh. The last time I remember them playing in Miami, I think Miami won.
I feel like Miami's upgraded their offensive line a little bit.
How was Tua against us? I actually like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill versus their secondary.
Okay.
I'm picking Miami. I hate Miami. I'm going to pick them.
This one's interesting as well. Steelers and
Eagles.
coming off of a bye.
Sure. The Steelers are going to win one of these two games. They have to. They're not going to go 0-8. There's absolutely no way they're going 0-8. Not a chance. So they're going to win one of them.
Like Tomlin will be fired.
Yeah.
Saints?
I think they're going to beat the Saints.
Yeah, the Steelers off a bye, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No.
Okay. Bengals at Steelers.
So do we have 2-7 right now, just to be clear? 2-7? Well,
no, actually 1 win.
I think they take this one for the Bengals.
Well, I have them winning one of the Eagles or Dolphins game. So, because I don't see them going 0-8. So,
Okay.
2-7, I think we should go.
Steelers at Colts. I think the Steelers could take this one, honestly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the Steelers could take this one against the Falcons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Falcons
For
are
sure.
freaking barren.
They're already up to 4-7, guys.
All right. Week 14, Ravens at Steelers.
Steelers. They take this one.
Really?
I agree.
I can see that.
Steelers at Panthers. I take Steelers.
Steelers.
I'm taking the Steelers. They're winning a lot of games right now.
They're on a
Yeah,
run
they're up
right
to
now.
6 and 8.
6 and 8. Yeah.
All right, week 16. I think the Raiders take this one.
Yeah.
Unless you want to count jet lag. But that happened last year earlier in the season, and the Steelers still lost. So
Double header tonight. LOL. Tudo says.
I'm going Raiders.
I'm taking Baltimore here.
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
And
And
I'm
then
taking
are
Steelers.
we actually saying that the Browns will sweep the Steelers, or the Steelers going to get one of each?
I think it's a tough call, man, because
I say it's a split, but they could be
Now
interchangeable.
here's an object to throw in the situation.
Watson will be back.
Watson, yeah, could be back. But what if they're good enough where they could sit their starters?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Last game of the season is always impossible to call, so that's a good shot. I think I'll go with Steelers.
Yeah.
Last game.
All right. Is this the same live chat going all day, or it's second half of the day? LOL. Same live chat. We've been going for 320 strong. So the Steelers, 7-10 record.
I think that's fair, man.
It's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I must say.
Yeah, Sean will hate us, but I could give two shits. His team is mid. Baltimore Ravens are next. So we already got the Ravens at 4-1. Now they're home against the Dolphins in week 2. I say win.
Win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Week 3, they're in New England. I say win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Buffalo here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Week 5. You
Ravens.
say Baltimore for the home field advantage. Okay,
Ravens
week
again.
7, Cleveland is in town. I still take them. Baltimore.
Definitely.
Baltimore, New Orleans.
Baltimore W.
Okay. Number 11, week number 11, the Panthers.
Baltimore
are
off a bye.
Yeah. Obviously, the Jaguars here.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like this, and I'm not picking it, but I feel like this would be a very, very good candidate for an upset game.
Could be one of those games.
But I'm picking Baltimore just because. I'm going to pick the upset here, and I'm going to take Denver.
I could see that.
I can see that too. Upgraded their quarterback room significantly.
Week 15, Ravens at Browns. I'm taking the Browns here.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Obviously, we'll take the Baltimore Ravens over Falcons.
Falcons for sure.
And
Again, this is another sketchy week because, as Donald said, we don't know who's
let's see.
playing.
The Ravens at this point are 12-4, so I don't think they're going to be playing any
Shit.
starters.
They'll sit it.
Okay, it looks like we'll be taking the Bengals, and the Ravens will finish 12-5.
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm not going to say it's an easy schedule, but
But
it's
they've upgraded enough.
I think we've called it fairly.
Yeah. All right, the Miami Dolphins. Week 1 at home against New England. I don't know why they always get New England, but
They like
Taking
New
Miami.
England. Yeah, they like New
especially at
England.
home.
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Miami.
Are
I
they
think Buffalo's
splitting-
good enough to sweep them.
Definitely.
Okay, so that overrules my vote. This one's interesting as well. Tank Bowl a couple of years ago. Dolphins at Bengals.
Bengals. Joe Burrow.
Bengals in Cincy.
Obviously, we covered that. Week 6, Vikings at Dolphins. I'm taking the Dolphins.
I'm gonna go Vikings.
Really? Luca?
I got to agree. I'm going with Vikings. Or you could call that a tie.
We're not doing that.
Tie game.
They're both pretty mid.
Yeah, they are.
Week 8, Dolphins at
Lions
Lions.
improved, but I'll give this to the Dolphins.
I'm going to go same. I would expect them to blow out the Bears.
I would hope so. Oh my God.
Cleveland off of a bye in Miami. I think
I
Cleveland.
go Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland.
Yeah. Cleveland are a good team this year.
Houston in Miami off of a bye.
Miami off the bye.
Yeah, Houston suck.
I'm going San Fran here.
Yep.
You know what? Yeah.
Definitely. San Francisco home for sure.
I'm taking the Chargers here.
So am I.
Oh yeah, Chargers are gonna have a hell of a team this year.
Okay.
Their defense is better.
Y'all
Oh, yeah.
agreed on that Buffalo sweep. Green Bay in Miami.
See, Green Bay lost Devontae Adams. They have Cobb, Watkins, and Watson as the receivers.
Yeah.
But you never underestimate Aaron Rodgers.
Green Bay are very strange though, because like they'll play great opposition and beat the piss out of them, and then play a mid team and lose. That's just the way they are. They're a weird team, so I can't predict. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miami win.
I'm going to go Miami.
Patriots.
And then Patriots. The Miami Dolphins finished 7-10. Holy shit.
Really? Ooh. Maybe we're underestimating them. I can see them winning 8.
Sean's okay. Hasn't been on a few months because he is working for an apartment, New York City, particularly Staten Island. So, he hasn't really been up much to the content as of late. He's been working a lot, so he's all right too, though. Hopefully, like once he gets his new apartment and he gets his shit sorted out, we could have him on and we could
do 4. We could go 4.
Yeah. With that being said, I know Nimmer, if you're still here, hopefully if you want to replay this and maybe you don't see it right now, we all have the Giants losing to the Titans, winning against the Panthers, losing to the Cowboys, winning against the Bears, beating the not beating the Packers. Packers winning in London. The Ravens beating the Giants. For some reason, Jacksonville's going to go ahead and beat the Giants. I don't believe that. The Giants not beating the Seahawks. To be honest, I think that has actually an upset potential. Giants beating the Texans. The Giants beating the Lions. The Cowboys winning on Thanksgiving as the New York Giants. Washington losing to the Giants. Philly losing to the Giants. Then off of a bye, Washington wins against the Giants. The Giants lose on Saturday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. They lose to the Colts, and then they lose to the Eagles. So,
my hot take is the Giants win the London game. It's my hot take.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would not be surprised either.
In London. Wouldn't be too surprised at all. But with that being said, Donald, Luca, and myself to finish out.
Great fun having you being on again. Lots to talk about. My God, we really covered it over 3.5 hours, man. We really dug in. I'm not going to get into Donaldson. We'll have to see how the Yankees respond, man. You can't be losing to Baltimore. Baltimore is
no
the
circumstances.
team you need to be getting fat on. And we were getting fat on them earlier on this year, but now we've lost the last 2 games we've played them. So that kind of is a little concerning. But we're still in great shape. Still the best team in baseball as far as I'm concerned. They just need to figure out what they're going to do in terms of high leverage spots with the bullpen. That's my major concern. And also, Aaron Hicks and Gallo. Gallo less so for me, even though I'm not a fan of him at all as his style of game at all. But at least I know what he is. Aaron Hicks is just a bad baseball player. straight up. So that's right. And I think Golden State are going to be playing the Celtics in the NBA Finals. That's my hot take.
Yes, Tudo, we were
Of
talking
course.
about it earlier.
And Tudo, Alex is an abomination because he's never watched The
An
Sopranos.
abomination. Yeah.
I think he brought up earlier. Tudo brought up earlier the character, the guy they based Tony Soprano off of, Vincent something. Palermo, I think his name is Vincent Palermo. That's like who they based Tony Soprano off.
Tudo, don't worry, man. I've made sure that Alex watches The Sopranos.
Alex, you must
He
binge
has to.
watch them this summer. You don't have a choice.
It's a must. It's a must. I want a project. I want a progress check.
Progress report.
Yep. Not a book report, just a progress report. Trust me, it is not a problem. Like, you will love The Sopranos.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who doesn't.
I know somebody. I looked on one of the comments on Twitter. Somebody said The Office was better than The Sopranos. I was like, "Excuse me."
Well, they're both completely different things.
Exactly.
One's a comedy. One's a
Exactly.
drama.
Exactly. The Office is one of the best comedies I've ever seen in my life. I adore it. But Sopranos is one of the best dramas ever made.
Vincenzo Palermo from Jersey. Luca?
Yeah, my favorite Super Bowl commercial ever. I know I've lived only 18 years, but still. So, getting into my final thoughts, great talk with Justin overall. Even though it was about mostly Giants, I could somewhat relate as an outsider. Talking football, stuff like that. Talking Yankees, talking basketball. Might start doing not one, but two prospects a week because the draft is coming. I've been slacking a little bit, I'll admit. And the draft is, slowly getting upon us. We're about a month away, so I got to get on my game.
Yeah, Luca. With that being said, guys, awesome talk tonight. Awesome chat overall of all the topics.
Thank you guys for supporting.
I thought I would pull this up because I thought it was funny. And I'm not going to end the show like this, but I'll come back and say my comments. But yesterday when I was watching the NYY News TV stream, they were talking about these idiots that run the fan pages, like Hoodie Mabin and all these other guys, like the squirmy dudes they are in real life. And Gary said this about Hoodie Mabin.
He's going to show up in a string backpack to Yankee Stadium and go, "Can I get a picture, Gary?"
Gary's funny. Can't wait.
Can I
Can't
get a
wait to
picture,
meet
Gary?
on the 25th.
June 25th is going to be so fun.
Oh, it's going to be wild, man. I can't wait.
Nimmer says Alex believed the Giants would beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I would welcome it. The last time they were on Thanksgiving, they were utter trash, which was 2017. Not many people remember that.
I don't believe we're going to be outcoached this year, which we were often outcoached in prior years. I think that we're going to have a coaching staff which is going to win us one or two games more than
we expect.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But tomorrow I should have some content up, with probably a video. Wednesday we're live streaming the Celtics Heat game. It's going to be the three of us. Thursday expect the Dead Red podcast, probably 8:30 or 9:30, with Sox Arizona, discussing all things baseball. Maybe he'll get into. I got to ask him if he's gonna join us for our post game show on Wednesday. But also Friday we're streaming the Yankee game, Yankees Rays.
Let's go.
But we appreciate you guys for tuning in. 3.5 hours. Peace out, guys. See you later. Stay cool and good night.
Good night.